This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, happy Friday, everybody. What is up? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. We have an absolutely packed show today as we get ready for a very busy weekend with the Winnipeg Jets. Two matinee games, Boston and Pittsburgh over the next couple days. And of course, for my money, the best weekend of NFL football all year, the final 8 teams, divisional playoffs. We'll touch on that at the end of the program with Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. And what a day for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers yesterday. Not just Adam Bighill, but Zach Collaros inked as well. We'll get to that, and Adam Bighill will join us a little bit later on in the program. Of course, Fridays, we often like to enter into Wiebe's world. Ken Wiebe's going to pop on the program, and cannot wait to have the voice of the Winnipeg Jets on TSN3. Dennis Beyak joined the program coming up in just a few minutes. As we get going, a big shout out and thanks to all the sponsors that make WST happen every day. F Apparel, Manitoba Battery, Royal Sports, Vita Health, Culligan Water, Not Auto Corp, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Boston Pizza, Princess Auto, Little Brown Jug, Canadian Club Whiskey, and Coolbet Canada. Well, with a packed slate, let's get right to it and welcome in Michael Remis, the CTO, to fire things up. Remo, happy Friday. Ugly outside, but that's okay. We're inside right now. I'm going to have a lot of fun on a packed 2+ hours of WST.
Yeah, it's Friday. I'm in a great mood. The weather, not great, but yes, good thing we're inside. Pack show, talking about last night's Jets loss, the upcoming games this weekend, but also the Bombers who are keeping us positive with the signings yesterday. Adam Bighill joining us, and Zach Collaros re-signed yesterday. And of course, NFL tomorrow. Also, I see people in chat. I mean, easy to forget about the Jets loss when we're all following very closely what's happening in Edmonton as well. So people talking about jersey tossing too. So I'm, after a Jets loss, I'm actually in a great mood. So for a number of reasons. So,
all things considered, you're right.
Yes.
Hey, we're going to talk a lot of Jets, but let's start off with the Bombers. As we mentioned, Adam Bighill's going to join us a little later on to talk about re-signing with the club, looking to run it back again and do something no team in the Canadian Football League's done since the 80s, and that's win 3 consecutive Grey Cups. But Remo, we were all fired up about the Bighill signing, and then a couple hours after we finished the program yesterday, got the news that Zach is back. Zach Collaros, the linchpin, the most outstanding player for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, is back. $550,000. I mean, hey, the guy's certainly earned his money. The biggest challenge for the closer, Kyle Walters, is making all of these contracts work within the salary cap. But, a number of the biggest and most important players, Jackson Jeffcoat, Willie Jefferson, Adam Bighill, and now Zach Collaros, all signed with the blue and gold. Still lots of work to do at other positions. But man, what a couple of weeks for Kyle Walters and the Bombers before we get to CFL free agency.
Yeah, this has been so, awesome. First of all, to celebrate back-to-back championships, which honestly feels so weird to say considering the 30 years before that without any championships. And then you have Jackson Jeffcoat, Willie Jefferson being re-signed, Jake Thomas, was there Pat Neufeld. There's a long list of Jesse Briggs earlier, long list of guys being re-signed, but Adam Bighill yesterday, and then the quarterback, some might say, has the most important position on the field.
Some might say
17-2 record since coming to Winnipeg. Back-to-back Grey Cup champion, most outstanding player. It's been an incredible run here for Zach, and Justin Dunk tweeting out yesterday, highest paid player in the CFL, assuming that is assuming Mike Riley's contract gets restructured, but $550,000. And I think he's got to be worth it. Pay the guy, keep him here, because if he's not here, I don't think. I mean, obviously it's a team sport, but I think huge integral to the team's success, and it's just clicked since he's been here. Since that throw to Darvin Adams, was it against Calgary? You're like, these guys got a quarterback, and it's been fantastic to watch.
I've told this story a number of times, but I mean, we were on the air. I think we were finishing up the warm-up, and the CFL trade deadline, I think, was, or maybe we thought that it was 2:00 Central Time. It ended up being 3:00, and we were just getting into the afternoon ride on trade deadline day in 2019, and we got the email, the release, that the Bombers had acquired the rights to Zach Collaros. This, of course, when Matt Nichols was injured and Chris Streveler was sort of struggling as the lone quarterback, the starting quarterback for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And, we joked that, oh, well, I guess there's a conditional pick. It's a first rounder if Zach re-signs with the Bombers. And I remember saying to Rick, well, listen, that'll be a great pick to give away, because if that happens, I think we realized that something really good will have taken place. And then there was a couple weeks while Zach was kind of learning the playbook and, it wasn't playing, and he came in that game against Calgary, that final regular season game. And we, and many of you probably in the chat listening on podcasts will recall, that was the weekend of the Heritage Classic in Regina between the Jets and the Flames. And we were at, I want to say it was a Moxie's or something like that. A wild scene. Half Flames fans, half Jets fans, everyone paying attention to the Winnipeg-Calgary football game that was on the tube. And that play brought people out of their seats. And it was the first sort of moment that we thought, listen, I was surprised Zach Collaros was still playing. When you think about the injuries that he'd had before in his career, some real serious ones. I mean, he'd won the MLP before. There were many, myself, and I'll own it at times. I'm wondering, I'm surprised that this guy continues to play. Well, he's come to Winnipeg. He's played behind the best offensive line in the Canadian Football League, and all he's done is win 2 championships, 17 games. He's got a 17-2 record as a starter, and the second loss was a game that he started, was leading when he got pulled, and then they didn't close it out. So it could very well be 18-1. But the bottom line is this team is set to go and do it all again. We can now start talking three-peat. And looking forward to getting to that with Adam Bighill a little bit later on. But as Patrolman Pete said, I think the Collaros signing was a nice remedy for a pretty ugly first period for the Jets in Music City last night. One that inevitably they were unable to come back from, Reem.
Yeah, I mean, a real tough start there for the Jets, going down 3-0. Not what you want to see on the road. Full credit to Nashville. I mean, they were good. They were tenacious. They were on the puck. They did take a lot of penalties, and I thought they left the door open to a Jets comeback. The Jets officially 1 for 5 on the power play. Penalty was good, stopping all 3 power plays from Nashville. But I thought when they made it 3-1, I'm like, okay, you know what? This isn't out of reach here. But that Luke Cunnin goal, point shot deflected in. Was that the first period or so? Oh no, so that's penalty. Sorry, I think that was in the second period there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that kind of sealed it for Nashville, making it a 4-1 game. They got the break on the power play goal. Dubois, trying to do a cross ice pass, hits the defender and goes past UC Saros. That's almost like the only way they were going to beat him. They did end up throwing 38 shots on net. Some of those in the third period, Nashville sitting back. Thought they had a lot of chances. Perfetti's continuing to look good. Schmidt had some chances as well. Couldn't put it past him.
Oh, did he ever?
Yeah.
I mean, that one chance that he had, I'm pretty sure that was at 3-1. And if that goes in, you get it to 3-2. Maybe we're having a different conversation. I'll say this. I thought the Jets certainly, didn't wilt. They really pushed it through the second half, the second period. And especially in the third period, despite that, momentum killing goal that put the Preds up 4-1. And, Scheifele got that goal early in the third period and thought, okay, game on. And, to their credit, they kept on bringing it. But I'll say one thing. There was a lot of talk about how many penalties the Predators were taking, and they came as advertised yesterday. Missed opportunities for the Jets on the power play. They did get the 5-on-3 goal. But Nashville had 3, if not 4, careless 2-minute penalties 190 feet away from their own net. I mean, they were taking 2-minute penalties inside the Jets zone. I mean, and part of it is the way that they're forechecking, how tenacious they are. But you got to make an opponent pay, especially when you've given up a couple of unfortunate goals. And I'll say this about Connor Hellebuyck. I think everyone knows I'm as big a Helly guy as there is. He has been the savior in a lot of times for the Winnipeg Jets over the last few years. He didn't have a great game last night. I mean, there's a couple unfortunate deflections, but Hellebuyck, I think more often than not will probably keep at least one, if not a couple of those pucks out of the net. Hey, that's going to happen. It would have been a great time for the team to sort of, back him up and bail him out for how many times that he's bailed out the club at times before. But it didn't happen. Man, we talked about missing Nikolai Ehlers and certainly Blake Wheeler last night. Power play still has a lot to be desired for the Winnipeg Jets right now, and that to me was a major difference maker in not being able to get more to last night's game. But not a lot of time to lick the wounds and feel sorry for themselves, Reem, because they're right back at it with two very, very difficult matches on the road this weekend. Tomorrow in Boston, 2 p.m. start, and then Pittsburgh at noon on Sunday before all the football.
Yeah, they are on the ice right now. We'll get to Mike McIntyre's there at the very beautiful Warrior Ice Arena in Boston. A couple things we can take. One, watching the power play and watching this team, I mean, it's so clear, so much more clear now. I mean, Kyle Connor is the guy on the power play. They're trying to get him puck. He's ripping shots. He's the team's all-star, and I think he's, he's not underrated anymore. I know I said that before, but I mean, he's becoming more and more of a focal point of the team's offense. One thing to watch, ice time watch us. You asked Mike yesterday, was Logan Stanley on the hot seat? Is it heating up? Well, I mean, I think you might be. He was last in terms of time on ice for defensemen, 10:07, and Dylan Sandberg, 14:05. I mean, part of that might be, the pairs. I mean, Stanley on the third pair with Schmidt, although Schmidt got considerable more ice time, 18 minutes. And so Brandon Dillon, he's skating today. He's back. I do wonder what the D pairings. I think Mike said he couldn't really get a feel based on just so many guys being on the ice. And Cole Perfetti, I mean, establishing himself as an NHLer, playing almost 17 minutes, 16:54. I think he's been a key contributor. He even threw a body check us in the corner there in the third period. I thought he was a small guy. He's throwing his weight around.
Hey,
he's looking good.
Letting people know that he's arrived. And he certainly, he doesn't look out of place right now. I mean, he looks ready, and he's been contributing, and he continues to make some of those subtle plays that just guys with elite hockey sense have. And you add in the skill that he brings to the table, and it'd be exciting to see them go forward, presumably with Perfetti continuing to play with Connor and Pierre-Luc Dubois. So we'll have a little bit more, and we'll look ahead to the games more on the weekend with both Dennis and with Ken coming up. I saw Earl James mention that Stanley went and started a fight after the Jets were getting a power play. They still got the power play. I mean, that was stepping up and for his defense partner. Thought Jeannot took a run at him from behind, got a penalty called on him. They dropped the gloves. I think a lot of people, listen, fighting doesn't have a big place in the game anymore. But every now and then, a player stepping up against a very tough dude in Jeannot. I believe he's got 10 fights already this season for the most penalized team in the league. Didn't go great for Stanley, but I think it's more about standing up and doing it. But Earl, just so you know, that was that didn't cost the Jets a power play. They still had the power play. Unfortunately, they weren't able to do much about it. The one number when we look at ice time that really sort of stands out, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that he wasn't killing penalties and wasn't on the power play, was Evgeny Svechnikov last night. Reem, he played 3:26. Jansen Harkins was in at 7:14, all at even strength. Dominic Toninato played 6:51, but 3 minutes of that was shorthanded. And, part of it's chasing the game. He wants to give guys the opportunity that he thinks is the best chance to score. Obviously, those are your top two lines. And then all of that power play time that the Winnipeg Jets had also ate into it. But, unless that he's still dealing with some sort of an injury or, coming off the list, I guess he wasn't on the COVID list then. It was more an injury. Maybe they're trying to ease him back in. Maybe it was situational. I'll know one thing. they're going to need to have a little bit more from that fourth line and play them more over the course of these next two games within 22 hours of each other, with 2:00 start on Saturday afternoon and then a noon start in Pittsburgh on Sunday. And, I mentioned yesterday, I thought that in the January 2nd game against Vegas, with that group as the fourth line, was the best we've seen the fourth line all year. Just didn't really get a chance to do much of that. And, to be honest, the Lowry line didn't have a ton going last night either. So a lot on the shoulders of those top two lines right now offensively. And certainly when it comes to the power play, with Ehlers out, with Wheeler out, it's sort of a one unit that, it's all or nothing right now. And yeah, they did get that 5-on-3 goal, but probably looking back at some missed opportunities to maybe make that game closer.
Yeah, and there was some line shuffling too during the game. Christian Vesalainen getting a shot here with Kopp and Scheifele, Stasny moving down with Lowry and Poganski. I mean, Christian Vesalainen starting to get these, increased opportunities, just haven't seemed to get the results. And I agree with you. The team's offense very focused around Kyle Connor when he's on the ice. And, you're going to need to get some action from the lower lines, especially with this huge schedule. Having your fourth line guys playing 3 minutes, that's not going to get it done. So I think that's something to watch going forward. And we can hope to see Blake Wheeler back maybe this weekend, maybe for Sunday. I'm seeing Scott Billick tweeting his status up in the air for tomorrow, so we can get on to today's skate here.
Yeah, that'll be good stuff. We'll certainly get an update from Ken coming up a little bit later on when he joins us. I know he'll have his ear to the ground on that, and certainly looking forward to welcoming Dennis Beyak with his thoughts on the Jets so far this season, and of course looking ahead to these two games on the weekend. Just notes from Mike with boots on the ground there at that. Oh man, you weren't kidding. That rink, it really is nice. You can check out Mike's Twitter feed for it. Svechnikov, Scheifele, and Wheeler skating together. Interesting look. Connor, Reichel, and Perfetti. Stasny, Lowry, Vesalainen, Harkins, Toninato, Poganski. Mike has said it makes him think that Svechnikov is a placeholder for Kopp up there on that top line with Scheifele and Wheeler, and Reichel for Dubois in between Connor and Perfetti. Assuming that, it'll be interesting. I think many people, myself included, thought that, in all likelihood, when Wheeler returns to the lineup, he probably would start off probably on the right side along with Adam Lowry on that third line. But everything changed with Nikolai Ehlers out, and with Ehlers out of the lineup, at least for these games on the weekend, Reem, listen, I think they probably go back to Ehlers playing with Scheifele when that happens, when he's available to do it. But up until that point, both for PP1 as well as for that line with Scheifele, we might see Blake Wheeler just going right back to that spot when he returns to the lineup.
Yeah, Ehlers comes out and and Wheeler comes in, seemingly. We actually did have some news last night from Darren Dreger, as I think it was just when the game started. He tweeted out that Ehlers had a knee sprain or MCL sprain. So I think it sound like week to week, maybe back in like 2 weeks. So
is week to week, is that not basically, hey, he's out for this week? Like that's what they told us right away. So we then get to next week and maybe he'll be in. Is that not what a week to week? Like I don't know whether we really learn much other than the fact that it's an MCL sprain, which we know they won't say anything. It'll just be a lower body injury. But to me, nothing in that ruled out him playing potentially as early as next week, depending on how he's feeling.
Yeah, I guess we'll wait and see on that. And I'm just looking at, just to clarify from Jagger's Twitter, I guess a lot of people in Edmonton asking about Paul Maurice, his possible return to an NHL bench. Jagger confirms Paul Maurice won't be returning to an NHL bench this season. Just throwing that one out there too. Sorry to derail.
I wonder.
Yeah.
Well, hey, everyone's got time to talk about the Oilers right now. Mm-hmm. We joke that listening to some of the post games lately has been somewhat cathartic, especially last night, when a lot of Jets fans were somewhat disappointed about what had happened and where they're at right now. And then you flick the channel over and you see it going from 3-0 to 4-0 to 5-0 to 6-0 in the third period, and not one jersey, not two jerseys. Oh, there's 3 jerseys on the ice. It really just seems like it's absolutely falling apart in Edmonton. And it's frankly stunning. I mean, it is stunning. We didn't hear from either Draisaitl or McDavid after the game, and that's probably a good thing considering what had happened earlier this week. Interesting to hear what Darnell Nurse had to say. A couple of the good veterans, Nurse as well as Duncan Keith, did the talking last night. But at this point, Remis, I don't even know what you say. I mean, I feel for the players. Heck, I even feel for some of the media that have to get in there and ask the same things over and over again, because it's pretty clear that nobody from the bottom to the top of the organization has any answers right now for what's happening in Edmonton.
No, I guess it is. We do have to go over to the Edmonton. We'll be talking plenty of Jets for the next 40, 50 minutes here with Dennis and Ken, but I know, you
I'll
go
ask
off
them about the Oilers too.
You go
I
off
can't stop.
You go off the Jets loss and you're like, ooh, I want to see this. And it was a pretty close game for the first period. Oilers were out shooting Florida, but the wheels came off. And I mean, I normally don't condone jerseys being thrown on the ice. And I see people saying, who would throw 100? I mean, I think people are going.
I think it's a Bush League move, to be honest.
You think so? I mean, at this, but you got to send a message to the ownership that you're not willing to accept this. You're going to go buy a $30 jersey off Facebook Marketplace and throw it on the ice. They're not throwing new McDavid. They're throwing old Fernando Pisani jerseys. Yeah. Any Nail Yakupov off the clearance rack jersey. I'm trying to think what other old Oilers. These are McDavid Draisaitl jerseys. I think they're being taken off, secondhand for minimal pricing.
Listen, no jabroni throwing a jersey onto the ice in, protest of the way his team's playing is going to, it's not like the owners are going, oh, wow, wait a second. Maybe we've got a problem here. What's causing this? I mean, everyone's pretty clear. They just got their asses kicked 6-0 after everything that's happening around it. And this team was 16-5 on the season. And now since the start of December, they have been the worst team in the National Hockey League. And we're just about in February. I mean, there's been a number of games missed, but they're below Arizona. They're below Montreal. They're below the Kraken. They've got 2 wins since the 2nd of December. And the most ironic thing about it is those 2 wins that they had were the 2 games that Coach Dave Tippett missed because he was on the COVID list. It's honestly been since that game that Dave Tippett's actually been on the bench for a win right now. 12 in a row. They finished on the wrong end of it. So it's stunning right now. I mean, of course, our focus here is on the Winnipeg Jets. Last night's game and, Boston and Pittsburgh tomorrow. But pretty hard not to have a hockey conversation right now without talking about what's going on with, with Calgary, with the Edmonton Oilers. And oh, by the way, Battle of Alberta coming up on Saturday night. I mean, I'll be watching the Niners and the Packers, but depending on, I guess that's a late game. So it might be the same sort of thing as yesterday. Finish up the Jets game. Oh, let's see what's going on in the Battle of Alberta. And there's no team that would like to pour salt in the wounds and add to the misery in Edmonton as much as the Calgary Flames, their interprovincial rivals.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. So I think we're all focused on the Oilers. And I tuned in. I was expecting to see some fireworks in the Oilers postgame, but it was the most cliche-filled, boring postgame from Nurse and Keith. I wanted to see disappointed Connor McDavid, although I'd be honest, I feel really bad. I mean, best player in the league, your career is getting wasted because they've had time to put a team around you. And I see people on Twitter throwing out the report that Elliot Friedman had 2 years ago, that 2 years ago, he's getting frustrated with, the lack of team success that they've had. You have to wonder how he's feeling. And if we do see a trade at some point, they haven't done anything to now. Seemingly they're, I think, waiting for Mike Smith to come back in goal, but they did put Kyle Turris on waivers today. I saw that he was on the list, but I don't know.
Didn't they have a big signing? Brad
Malone. There was a report that they were going to sign Brad Malone, but then I saw Brad Malone actually was on the COVID list, and so he's actually not going to be signed.
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll get Dennis's thoughts on that. Ken Wiebe as well coming up a little later on. Bomber fans, be sure to stick around. Adam Bighill is going to join us on the program later on. Lee Hacksaw Hamilton as well with his thoughts on the weekend in the National Football League. And it's not Friday on Winnipeg Sports Talk without a marble race. Stick around at the end of the program. That will be a heck of a lot of fun. Hey, before we get to the voice of the Jets, Dennis Beyak, a big shout out to our friends at F Apparel for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. F Apparel, locally owned. making the best custom suits for men around, and not just custom suits, really clothing for any occasion. Dress shirts, winter jackets, casual chinos, golf pants, untucked dress shirts, shoes, ties, accessories, and more. Every guy needs at least one suit that fits and looks great, and F's custom-made suits start at just $400. If you're in a wedding party this summer, talk to Andrew and the guys at F. They'll get you 15% off the entire group and have you guys all looking tip-top for big events in the summer. F Apparel, they're at 190 Smith Street downtown, or make an appointment or check them out online at F. That's EPHapparel.com. We've listen, there's not a lot going on outside right now other than a lot of shoveling, which I guess has been, getting people quite active, but a lot of people trying to make maybe some few changes into 2022. And Vita Health Fresh Market, such a great place to start. First and foremost, incredible grab-and-go deli with healthy salads and sandwiches that I take advantage of. But if you're thinking about maybe doing a sober January, they've got amazing non-alcoholic beers from Sober Carpenter. They've got Boreal Botanicals, clever mocktails, and more. And if you're thinking about maybe trying a vegan diet, talk to the experts at Vita Health. They'll get you started. And incredible vegan brands, including Tofurkey, Field Roast, Gardein, Very Good Butchers, and more. 7 Winnipeg locations, including the newest store in Linden Ridge. It's Vita Health Fresh Market. You can also check them out online at myvita.ca. And while we're trying to live a little healthier, you know where it all starts. That's with water, being hydrated. And when you think of water in southern Manitoba and Winnipeg, you think of the great folks over at Culligan. Family owned for 65 years, celebrating their anniversary over at 1200 Sargent Avenue. And they've got it all: water softeners, filters, bottled water coolers, whole home systems, and drinking water systems, not to mention citywide water delivery services, as well as commercial and industrial water products and solutions for your business. Online at drinkculligan.com. Give them a call at 204-694-5180 to take care of all your water needs for you and your family. And you can pop by and visit them at 1200 Sargent Avenue. All right, let's get back to a little Jets talk. And it's an absolute pleasure to welcome in our good friend Dennis Beyak for the first time in 2022. What's going on, Dennis? How are you?
I am good, Huss. How are you?
You know what? I'm well. I'm ready for this weekend. I'll tell you what. I mean, it's a sports fan's dream. We got a couple big Jet games, which we'll talk about in a minute, against Pittsburgh and Boston. Great test for Winnipeg and some very important games. And then a doubleheader of NFL football. The top 8 teams playing for spots in the conference finals. It's a packed show today. Oh, and not to mention the Bombers brought back Adam Bighill, Zach Collaros. So despite a disappointing result for the Winnipeg Jets, I think most people in the chat room and around here are in a pretty good mood.
You got some money on your Chiefs, I would imagine?
I do. I just finished an extended lock shop with my good friend Dustin Nielsen, and let's just say that we're going head-to-head on that one as well. Dennis, before we look ahead to the weekend, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks again for doing this. What did you think about the game last night? I mean, not a great first period for the Winnipeg Jets, certainly on the scoreboard. Battled back a ton of power play opportunities, but we sort of saw certainly a committed team that never quit and added, got a lot on UC Saros, who was the best goalie in the game last night. But tough result for the Winnipeg Jets as they still try to get that full lineup back and get some momentum and consistency, or continuity, shall I say, within the lines in the offense.
Yeah, I think the continuity is the big thing there, Huss. I think when you look around the National Hockey League, everybody's kind of going through it. Injuries, COVID, you never really have the same lineup. And I think that was a bit of an advantage last night for Nashville. I think that was their 4th straight game where they basically had the same group of forwards in the lineup. They moved Tolvanen and Cousins. They flipped lines on that. But other than that, their top 4 lines, basically the same personnel. They had moved some people around on defense. They had played a couple games minus Matthias Ekholm. But I think that's been a challenge for the Winnipeg Jets. When you look at the injuries and then you add COVID to it, it's been difficult for them because you're moving people around. You probably have inexperienced people in spots where maybe they shouldn't be, but they're being given an opportunity. And Dave Lowry's made that very clear to them, that you're going to be given the opportunity to show that you belong in the lineup, show where you play. But the bottom line last night was you can't, in today's NHL, you can't spot a team 3 goals and expect to come back because it's just too hard, especially on the road. If they could have got it to 3-2 in the second period, or even 4-3 midway through the third, Now you put a little bit of pressure on Nashville to maybe change the way they play, but they couldn't get to within one, and that just allowed Nashville to kind of play that dump it out game, and it worked for them. And yes, UC Saros was very good.
Well, I was just about to say, we've heard a lot but we haven't seen a lot of Nashville since game 2 of the year, and I frankly thought they stunk that game. I mean, I didn't leave that game at Canada Life Center thinking that, oh man, this is the team that's turning around this year and going to be pushing for the top of the Central Division. But credit where credit is due. I mean, the record speaks for itself. But I know you guys talked a lot on the broadcast about the amount of penalties that they've taken this so far this season, and there was plenty of opportunities for the Jets to get right back in it on the power play. And man, I don't know, by my count, it was at least 3, if not 4 2-minute penalties that Nashville took 190 feet away from their goalie. I mean, it was sort of served up on a platter. And, we're seeing, I think, still some changes on special teams. I think the penalty kill has been much better, but still trying to find a real consistent look that, gives them the best chance to score right now in the PP. And that certainly seems like it's a work in progress.
Yeah, I don't think Nashville minds taking penalties. But I don't think they liked the ones they took last night, the high-sticking ones that were so far away from the play that kind of put them a man down, and their penalty killing had to come up big, especially their goaltender. But that's where the Jets kind of needed to take advantage of those power plays, because I don't know if they're trying to get back to Smashville that we heard a lot about when they first came into the National Hockey League. But they are a very physical team, and they play that way, and they are in your face, and the Jets knew that's the kind of game they were going to get. And, it wasn't that the Jets were badly outplayed in that opening period. It just seemed when the Predators got the opportunity, they found the back of the net with it. And as I mentioned before, when you get down 3-0, it's very, very tough. But there certainly was some positive signs. The penalty kill is certainly trending in the right direction. You take away that Colorado game, and in the last 10 or so games, the Jets' penalty kill is running in the mid-90s, which I think you'll certainly be very happy with. The power play seems to be going a little bit. And now it's just trying to get a roster that you can roll out from game to game. Because when you go back and look at some of the success that they had earlier this year, it's when they could roll out the same 20 players on a regular basis. They missed Brendan Dillon. A game like last night, they really missed Brendan Dillon. His physicality, I think, would have maybe neutralized a little bit of what Nashville tried to do. Blake Wheeler, I think we'll see him this weekend at some point. Paul Stastny just gets back in. So little by little, they're getting back to some of the lines and the combinations, and maybe get back to the game that we saw from them a little while back.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And when you add in everything that's happened with the COVID list over the past 6 weeks, and hopefully the worst of that is behind, not just the Jets, but all teams in the National Hockey League, you might get closer to full health, but that has almost been an impossible goal for most teams right now. We're going to see it with the Jets opponents, coming up on the weekend. Never mind COVID. I mean, Brad Marchand's out. Jets are without Nikolai Ehlers. But no one's feeling sorry for anybody else, Dennis. All the games are worth 2 points.
Through it all, Huss, they played pretty well.
Yeah.
They've had a lot of road games here. They had 12 of a possible 16 points in the last 8 road games. So, it's not like they're getting blown out on the road or whatever the case may be. This is a tough road trip. They're up against some tough teams. But when you look at their record, the last 10, 12 games, they've really hung in there pretty well when you consider everything. But so now it is a matter of and they're going to be minus Nikolai Ehlers for a while. There's no doubt. If we can see him right after the All-Star break, I think that would be the best case scenario for the Winnipeg Jets. But this was going to be a tough road trip for them.
Dennis, let's talk a couple positives. We'll get back to the blue line in a minute. Cole Perfetti, the way he's played so far, fit in with an incredible opportunity along with Connor and Dubois. I find that I'm more impressed by him each and every game, and I think he's probably feeling a little more comfortable each and every game, but there's no doubt he possesses all-world skill, and he comes equipped with a brain that is dialed for hockey at the highest level. Your thoughts on Perfetti so far?
Last night was an interesting game to watch Cole Perfetti, because you knew it was going to be physical. You knew it was going to be a grinder. There wasn't going to be a lot of open ice, and he handled himself very well. And Dave Lowry has put him in a position where he can succeed. He's put him with a couple of very good hockey players in Kyle Connor and Pierre-Luc Dubois. And I agree with you. I think every game, Cole Perfetti gets just a little more comfortable in that Jets roster. And I mean, it's been an interesting couple of years for him with the AHL last year because the OHL wasn't playing, and then dispensation to stay in the AHL this year. Then he goes to the World Junior. The World Junior gets canceled, comes back, gets in the Jets lineup, and away he goes. So it's been an interesting run for Cole Perfetti, but he's showing every game that he can handle this. I don't think the 10 games and the entry-level contract, I don't think that's going to play a part. I don't think Kevin Shoveldayoff and his people are looking at that. I just think it's going to be simply if Cole Perfetti can stay in the Winnipeg Jets lineup, help them win, then he will stay in that lineup. So, and we'll see what happens when Blake Wheeler comes back as to where everybody kind of slots in. But I think Cole Perfetti has been fine. And he's still going to have, let's keep in mind, there's still going to be some ups and downs. He's going to have some real good games, and there's going to be some games that don't go so well for him. But he's a young player. He's 20 years old, and that's going to happen to every young player in the National Hockey League. But I think they have to be happy with what they've seen from Cole Perfetti.
No doubt about it. And speaking about young players kind of getting their chance in the lineup, at sort of bizarre circumstances going into Detroit last week with half the team on the COVID list and injured, and then a bunch of the Moose guys on the list too. And it wasn't Philly Haina. He was on the list. It was Dylan Sandberg who makes his debut along with Declan Chisholm. And Chisholm had a phenomenal game. He's back with the Manitoba Moose. Sandberg has stayed in the lineup. And Dennis, it was interesting, to see like game by game how Dave Lowry is handling his club, maybe, as the guy that now has the final say. You look at the ice time at the end of the game, and there was a pretty big gap between Dylan Sandberg and Logan Stanley. The game before, it was the other way around. Last night, it was Sandberg. Got to ask you, if Dylan comes back, say tomorrow on the weekend, is Sandberg maybe on the verge of staying in the lineup over Logan Stanley right now, or how do you see that shaking out?
Well, that's going to have to be the decision for Dave Lowry, and it's going to depend on, at least short term, is Brendan Dillon ready to jump back into the lineup for a back-to-back after not being on the ice for some time here. So that's one factor. Where is he from a physical standpoint as far as being ready to go? Secondly, where is he from a health standpoint? Is he back up to 100% where they can put him in the lineup and expect him to play that same physical game that he does like to play? And if that happens, then there's going to be some question marks. There's no doubt, because now Dylan Sandberg has had the benefit, again, and it's an opportunity. He's had the benefit of coming in because he knows Neil Pionk. They're from Hermantown, trains with him in the summertime. So he's had that benefit when he came into the Winnipeg Jets lineup. And there's no doubt that Neil Pionk was a huge benefit to Dylan Sandberg when he came in. And I'm not talking on the ice. I'm talking on the bench. I'm talking in the dressing room, getting ready for that first game in Detroit and everything that comes along with it. But let's go back to training camp. Dylan Sandberg was going to push very hard for a roster spot with the Winnipeg Jets. And then that first day of training camp, gets the high ankle sprain, and he's done. And that's not a good injury. And it keeps you out maybe longer than you think it should. But he got himself back in the lineup, seized the opportunity, and made sure that first game that he came back in, that he played very well, and he did. So now the decision falls on the coach, and it's a good problem to have. But certainly in today's world of social media, it's going to be a hot topic between see what happens in today's practice and before game time tomorrow, and then before the Jets come home for a couple of games next week. So you just hope that everybody stays healthy and they continue to have to make those tough decisions.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think we ought to all agree. I mean, and in any, I mean, this is not just unique to hockey or even professional sports, but I mean, competition, can and often does bring out the best in everybody involved. And Dave Lowry's been pretty clear, Dennis, that, hey, we're going in clean slate for players. We want the guys that are going to help us win. And we've already seen some interesting moves. But hey, speaking of that, we haven't had a chance to have you on the program since December. Let's go back for a minute. How stunned were you with the end of the Paul Maurice era, the way that it happened on that Friday in December, and then maybe just thoughts on what you've seen from Dave Lowry, albeit in a bizarre time when he's had more practice time than games, and that doesn't often happen during a regular season.
Well, like everybody, I think we were all shocked when we got the word that morning that Paul Maurice had stepped down. There was going to be a news conference in 20 minutes. At Canada Life Center, and we all hustled down there for Paul Maurice's resignation. It's interesting, and I'm not going to say I told you so, and not because I didn't, but I always felt that Paul Maurice would not be fired, that Paul Maurice would recognize that it was time for a change and would step away. Did I expect it to happen now? Absolutely not. I was caught by surprise and as shocked as everybody. But in our conversations with him, you always got the feeling that he had a real good grasp on this team. And then, as he said that day, he felt that he had pushed this team as far up the mountain as he possibly could, and it was time for a new voice. So now we go to Dave Lowry, and that new voice is basically saying a lot of the same things that Paul Maurice said, but it seems to be resonating more with the players. Take the puck to the net. Goals are scored from in front of the net. Play inside the dots. So whether it's the new terminology or whatever the case may be, it is working for the Winnipeg Jets. When we had one of our first meetings, and we've only had the privilege of having one before we went back into these COVID protocols where everything is back on Zoom. We had one meeting in Dave Lowry's office, and that's right after he took over as coach of the Jets. And Kevin Sawyer asked him, describe yourself as a coach. He said, direct. And I think that's what we're seeing. The other line that he's used, and he gave us that day, was just because you start on one line doesn't mean you're going to finish the game on that same line. And he's talked about that since, how from Daryl Sutter days, he's learned that you have to make changes if a certain player isn't going or a certain player is. You have to recognize that, and their ice time is going to be based on that. So I think he's got the message through to the players. Maybe the fact that he's played over 1,000 games in the National Hockey League. And when you talk about taking the puck to the net and going to the dirty areas, that was Dave Lowry's game. So he's not asking the players to do something that he didn't do. And the message does seem to be getting through. And I think they are taking the puck to the net more. I think they're getting goals from the paint more than what they were before. And they'll need to continue that because Pierre-Luc Dubois said it again the other day. That's where goals in today's NHL, that's where goals are scored from.
Well, and Dubois has been so good. I mean, he has been the guy when it comes to taking the puck to the net. And I'm sure Dave Lowry probably shows a lot of Dubois video when he's talking about it with those groups. But I mean, Kyle Connor has as well. And I mean, this goes back to even before Paul Maurice stepped down, Dennis. And honestly, I kind of remember a point early in the season when they were playing together, and it sort of seemed like Kyle Connor was maybe picking up some of that from Pierre-Luc Dubois. All that being said, there's a reason why Kyle Connor is the Winnipeg Jets All-Star this season. Must be pretty fun calling all those goals right now for Kyle Connor. What a player he's turning into.
Well, we've seen, and maybe it doesn't reflect directly in the stats because he's always been a goal scorer, but I think we have really seen from maybe the middle of last year to now, I think we've really seen a maturation with Kyle Connor as a player, as a person. Went through some tough times in the offseason, but I think he's more of a complete player now. We're seeing him kill penalties now, which we did see a little bit last year, and we're seeing him getting a little bit more involved in his interviews. I think he is far more open to talk about what the game is and how they are playing, how he is playing. And I think we're seeing Kyle Connor grow up right in front of our eyes. And Glenn Sather once said, they come here as boys, they leave here as men. And I think we're kind of seeing a little bit of that with Kyle Connor, but just an electrifying player. And, more and more as we do interviews around the National Hockey League, whether it be the NHL Network, Sirius XM, whatever the case may be, more and more you hear people ask about Kyle Connor and is he as good a player as we're seeing? And my answer usually is he's a better player than what we're seeing, because I just think that he's really evolved into a complete and a very, very good National Hockey League player and deserves to be going to the All-Star game.
Dennis Beyak, the voice of the Winnipeg Jets on TSN, with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Speaking of these games, all important points right now. I mean, the Jets do have to, they can't afford to get into any lengthy string of not winning hockey games. We've talked about how crazy this month of February is, but before we even get to February, Dennis, what do you make of this weekend? Boston, albeit without Brad Marchand, he was injured last night, apparently won't play tomorrow afternoon. And the Pittsburgh Penguins, who I think were 13-2 in their last 15 going into last night's action. we've talked about a bit of a meat grinder of a schedule coming up now after a very light time because of all the cancellations. Huge challenge for this hockey club over the course of the next 2 afternoons.
Yeah, and good chance the Jets are going to see Tuukka Rask in goal for Boston. And yes, they are minus Brad Marchand, which certainly should benefit the Winnipeg Jets, because what he does is if the game isn't going in the Bruins' favor, he's one of those guys that will drag everybody else into the fight. He'll kind of wake everybody up and hate him as much as you want. The guy can play. And so it will be a benefit to not have him in the lineup. But the Boston Bruins are still the Boston Bruins. As long as Patrice Bergeron is there running the show from a team standpoint, and he still does, the Boston Bruins will play a certain way. And it doesn't matter whether it's the top line, whether it's the fourth line. Boston's success has come from everybody playing the same system, and they just come out, they come at you, they come at you, they come at you, and it will be it's not going to be an easy game for the Winnipeg Jets. Pittsburgh, you just simply have to admire their leadership and what they do, because through all the COVID problems that they have had and other injuries that they have had, they just keep rolling along. And I think that's a credit to Crosby. I think that's a credit to Coach Sullivan and the entire organization, because just when you seem to think that Pittsburgh is going to be this team to fall back and maybe have some struggles, and are they going to rebuild? Are they going to tear their thing apart? They just keep playing. And so back-to-back afternoon games, and the Jets will have their hands full. But again, if you want to be one of the better teams in the National Hockey League, then you need to find ways in those type of games to come up with something. Just as they did in the Washington game. They found a way. Yes, they have the 2-0 lead, but at the same time, you're still down 1 late in the game. They found a way to tie it. And that's going back to last night's game. That's where they needed to get back to within 1. And that's what you always want as a coach or a player. Late in the game, you want to get to within 1 where you can pull the netminder and give yourself that opportunity. And the other team plays differently when it's a 2-goal lead versus a 1-goal lead. And we saw that last night with Nashville.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I had said earlier on, I mean, I'm the biggest Hellebuck backer. I just didn't think he had a great game. Certainly, I mean, hey, he set the bar very, very high. I mean, they certainly would be taken in a few other spots in Canada. Yeah. That being said, he's also
Not
Mr.
Edmonton.
Yeah, well, you know where I was going with that, Dennis.
Yeah.
He's also Mr. Matinee. He's an incredible record in afternoon games. I have a feeling he will come into tomorrow's afternoon with a bit of a chip on his shoulder, considering the way this has started. What do you think the chances are that he goes back-to-back on the weekend?
Well, I was just going to go there, Huss. I think that's changed, and I think that is going to be the case. Eric Comrie, it's hoped that he'll skate today, but he's been off the ice for a long time. Hasn't seen any shots. You can visualize, I guess, all you want, but you still need that practice action, and you still need to see some pucks as a goaltender. So I would not be at all surprised with the afternoon games if we do see Connor Hellebuck go back-to-back. Some of that might depend on how busy he is in Boston, how many shots he faces, how much traffic is around the net, and everything that goes along with it. But it wouldn't surprise me because of what's happened. I think initially the plan was that Eric Comrie was going to get one of the afternoon games, and was probably going to be the Pittsburgh game that would give Connor Hellebuck a few days before the Florida game and then the Vancouver game at home next week. That may have changed now to the point where you're going to go with Connor Hellebuck tomorrow. You'll go with Connor Hellebuck on Sunday, and then you'll give Eric Comrie the Florida game here, which isn't going to be an easy task, but sometimes that's the job of a backup netminder, and that gives Connor Hellebuck a few days off to get ready for the Vancouver Canucks, which is a conference game versus the Florida game, which isn't. And, you know, maybe the points are a little more valuable. Not that Eric Comrie couldn't come in and pitch a great game against the Florida Panthers, but it's not going to be easy. We saw what Florida did in Edmonton last night. So,
yeah, they are a wagon right now. Dennis Beyak's with us. Hey, Dennis, before we go, you mentioned those games next week. I mean, I can't believe we're back into a situation where we're going to be playing in basically an empty building. I mean, I know there's going to be 250 fans there on the west side. How have you? Well, I put in. I haven't heard yet, but I'll tell you what. If there's a pair for me, I'll buy them and be there. How have you and the broadcast team been handling another round of curveballs being sent to you and more challenges to do what you love to do?
Yeah, you know what? And I'll be totally honest here. The last 2 games were both ends of the scale. The Washington game, the jerseys, you could identify the numbers immediately. It wasn't difficult, and then you go into Nashville where you've got the black numbers on the yellow jerseys. There's nothing better than a dark jersey with a white number on it, and easy to identify, easy to pick up. And last night I know there was some cases where you just didn't identify whoever the Nashville Predator player was on the far side of the ice because you're just getting yourself into a point where you're going to be wrong. And hey, I'm the first to admit it. I know there was misidentifications, and that's what we are. You know what? It's not fun. We joke about it. This isn't what we signed up for. Part of what makes our job special is to be on the road, see different rinks, and be around different people, and call games that you're watching. You're not looking at a 52-inch screen trying to see what's happening behind the play. You can look up at the clock. That's the one area where I've failed drastically at. I rely so much on the clock when it comes to the time left in penalties. And last night we had the double penalties, was the first one over, and you just don't have the advantage of doing that. But you know what? We struggle through it, or maybe I struggle through it. I won't put that on Sarah and Kevin. It's not fun. It's not as easy as it was, but you know what? We're still calling games in the National Hockey League, and you can't overlook that fact.
Well, listen, you set the bar, my friend, and everyone's dealing with a different challenge, and that's it. What are the worst jerseys in the league from a broadcast perspective?
Ottawa's third jersey last year. Ottawa's third jersey last year should not have been allowed under the current COVID conditions and calling games off the monitor and they had Zub, who was 2, Zaitsev 22, Brown, who was 3. All 3 were right-hand shots. You couldn't pick up a number off the sleeve to save your life. Good luck. But you know what? I haven't had the Tampa ones that I know are a problem. Good job, Remis. Calgary's third jersey had some challenges as well. But the Ottawa ones last year, even people who were in the building calling games had trouble with them. And it just got to the point where you just resigned yourself to the fact that whatever. You could tell Tkachuk from the way he skates and the way he plays. Paterson has the real long stick. You could identify him. You could identify Stützle because he kind of had that different skating style. So you could identify certain players. But for the most part, that jersey should not have been allowed.
Those reverse retros, some of them were really cool, but some of them were a disaster. The Leafs had another one too, and the Leafs one, if I recall, I mean, it was like dark on dark.
Yes.
And I mean, like being at the game, it was difficult to find out. I mean, just sort of right along the lines with a couple of the other ones but doing the broadcasters no favors.
No, and again, we see Toronto so much. When they had Zach Bogosian last year, where you could identify him from his days here in Winnipeg. You knew what Jason Spezza skated like. Marner has a different skating style. We see so much of Toronto, I guess, that you kind of get a little more familiar with them. But that's the biggest challenge. That is for us who try to be accurate and try to really identify who has the puck. And mix it into what's happening in the game, it has presented some challenges, but we'll get through it. I'm hoping that maybe by that road trip that starts in Calgary on February 21st, maybe we'll be back traveling, but all that will depend on the current state of the world. And, maybe we're not out of this thing as quickly as we hoped, and certainly as quickly as we thought we were going to be, but for everybody's standpoint. But the biggest thing is what you mentioned a while ago. We need fans back in the building. We need fans back in the building to create that excitement. That's the other part that we miss on the home games when you're broadcasting, is that in-game excitement that you just don't have. And to see fans, their reaction to big plays, to big hits, to good goals. And on that, I'll wrap it up because I know that I'm probably stealing time from the illustrious Ken Wiebe. So,
Dennis, you are the best. Thanks so much. Everyone really appreciates you popping in, not the least of us, myself and Michael Remis. You be well. Hopefully we will have some more asses in seats when we get into February there. And we'll certainly look forward to the great job you do, whether you got to deal with the current situation or we get you and the gang back on the road as the season goes by. All the best to you, my friend. Have a great weekend. Can't wait for these games.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Huss. Anytime. Take care.
Thanks so much. There he is, Dennis Beyak. Big games for the weekend for the Winnipeg Jets. Dennis, always on the call on TSN 3. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. from Boston and noon Sunday against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Kenny Wiebe's going to join us in just a second. Kenny will be powering up the program. Of course, cars everywhere powered up by our friends over at Manitoba Battery on Logan Avenue. Blizzard conditions today, closed roads, just absolutely bananas outside. But as we get into these extreme cold temperatures right now, you need to have, if there's ever a place in the world you need to have a functioning powered up battery source, it's here in Winnipeg, Manitoba in the middle of January and February. Pop down to 1026 Logan Avenue. They'll give you a free battery test right then and there. And if you do need one, you'll get it at the best price in town, locally owned with Manitoba Battery. They've also got delivery services. If you're not able to get down there, give them a call at 783-8787. Save money. Don't waste your time at the big box stores. Support local over at Manitoba Battery. And go to manitobabattery.com as well. Much more than just automotive batteries, although that's the big chunk of business right now. Lots of snow coming down right now, which is great for the guys that love to run the sleds. Batteries for all makes and models there as well. And then as we get into the summer, all the fun stuff, they're powering you up as well. Donnie and the gang, manitobabattery.com. 1026 Logan Avenue. Give them a call, 783-8787. Got a chance to hook up with Greg over at Royal Sports last night for a bit of the game. Man, they've got a lot of exciting stuff coming in. New merchandise by the day. And of course, they're ready for NFL weekend. You Bills fans saw a bunch of really cool Bills toques and masks. Chiefs fans, let's do it. They've got you covered as well. Of course, Bomber Championship gear and thousands upon thousands of items of Winnipeg Jets merchandise. And of course, jerseys, which they'll customize for you. I have a feeling they're selling quite a few 91s these days with excited fans for Cole Perfetti. Royal Sports over at 750 Pembina Highway, Winnipeg's hockey superstore as well. Tons of snowboard gear. And when you're there, make sure you check out all the cool stuff over on the Kings skate, snow, and surf side. And make sure to follow Royal Sports Pembina on Instagram for all the latest merchandise drops and big sales. And of course, our friends at Not AutoCorp are ready for 2022. If you are thinking about a new vehicle for the new year, don't do anything before you talk to the experts at Not. Why not get into the car of your dreams at a great price with the help of the Not team? Waverly and McGillivray, incredible vehicles on the lot, as well as the opportunity for them to source out the perfect vehicle for you and get it here into Winnipeg at a great price. Check them out, Waverly and McGillivray, or online at not.ca. All right, Adam Bighill of the Blue Bombers coming up a little later on. Lee Hacksaw Hamilton in and around 2:30 if you're watching with us live. But it's not a week on Winnipeg Sports Talk without a trip into Wiebe's world. And Ken Wiebe joins us now, of course, with Sportsnet and Kenny and Rennie. What's up, Weber? How are you?
Hustle's great to be with you. Beautiful Friday here. And yeah, if someone's had a better 5-week stretch than Kyle Walters and Mike O'Shea, send them over my way.
That's good. Hey, tough act to follow. We just had Dennis on. What a treat it was having Dennis on the program.
Well, yeah, and you got Bighill. So fortunately for you, Huss, I preferred hitting leadoff, but I had a lot of experience hitting in the 2-hole in baseball. So I'm not opposed to hitting behind the runner. If you need me to lay down a sacrifice, no problem. But on a good day, I'll take that high and away pitch down to that right field gap for a double or a triple.
All right. Well, batter up. Let's go. What did you think of the game last night?
Well, I would say the Jets did not like the start. Not just the score. Obviously, the score was lopsided, but I thought there was another one of those stretches where the Nashville Predators kind of cranked up the speed and intensity, and the Jets kind of got into a little bit of a quicksand type of situation. But they did battle back from that. I would say that there's always going to be a point in a game where you need to kind of hang on. I mean, in a perfect world, would every team like to dictate the level in the terms of play out of the gate every single game? Of course they would. But I thought the Jets responded. I know there's a lot of online angst regarding that third goal by Ryan Johansson, and hey, it's one Connor Hellebuck has to have. It's one that he himself would be very disappointed by. But to hang that loss on Connor Hellebuck, I think, is missing the point entirely. Huss, you and I had this conversation 2 months ago during that stretch of 8 consecutive games where Hellebuck allowed 2 or fewer. The Jets won 3 of those hockey games, and we talked at the time about how costly those missed points were going to be. And guess what? Yesterday is kind of a microcosm of that, where the offense isn't there, and if Hellebuck is not out otherworldly, well, the Jets lose to a really good team, and people are looking around wondering, well, what happened? It's a reminder of how great Hellebuck has been for so long, when the goals saved above average has been so high, and everything else. So the simple fact of the matter is that there are some nights when the offense is going to have to carry the goaltender. Last night was one of those nights. And I would say that the Jets' offensive weaponry didn't get the job done. I mean, UC Saros, very good. Jets did put up 38, but I mean, you can't. Dennis said it on the last segment. It's really hard to spot a team at 3-0 lead and expect to win the majority of those games. So I would say the Jets showed some resolve in the third period, but I think quite frankly, their power play has been a lot better, Huss, but their power play let them down last night again. It was one of those nights where, yes, they got a goal from Pierre-Luc Dubois on the bounce off Carrier, but their puck, I mean, yes, they had some looks, but if you want to be a top 5 power play, that's kind of one of those nights where the power play needs to get that game within a goal, and then you try to build some momentum from there. But when that 4-1 goal happened, it was an absolute deflator. And I mean, the Jets did have some pushback, but you knew it was an uphill battle from there. And I would say that was one of those nights where, I like the play of a lot of those guys in the top 6, Huss. I mean, you saw Pierre-Luc Dubois almost 24 minutes again. You just talked about Cole Perfetti, another super important step forward for Cole Perfetti in terms of establishing the type of game he can play. And I mean, Dennis touched on it. The importance of Cole Perfetti playing that type of cerebral game and not vanishing into the shadows in a game where you're playing a physical team, and an undersized player can sometimes easily get lost in the shuffle or on the periphery. That's the type of effort Perfetti needs to continue to stack if he wants to continue to play in that spot on the Jets' top line, where once again yesterday he looked very comfortable in that role. Kyle Connor, had some great chances. I mean, Saros, that's the thing. I mean, you have to go back and look at the replay. I mean, that shot that he made was exceptional, and Saros just gets the very tip of the cheater or the glove on that. Otherwise, it's bar down, and maybe we're talking about a different kind of start rather than trying to dig out of a 3-0 hole. But overall, Huss, it was another night where the offense didn't provide enough run support, and we know it became a 3-line game. Svechnikov 3 minutes and change, Harkins 7 and change, Tony Nato 6 and change. So it just goes back to there's a lot of nights they've been leaning on the high end guys. The secondary scoring has kind of evaporated, Huss, and the second part of that equation, although the Jets defense, nice job by Dylan Sandberg again. But what we talked about at the start of the year with all of that offense coming from the back end, I mean, Josh Morrissey had another exceptional game in terms of shot generation and quality and getting shots through. But that's another element that early in the year, when the Jets were relying on one line, they were getting all this offense, not a ton of goals, but some goals, and they were piling up points in terms of assists. That's kind of dried up a little bit too at times. So it's left a lot of pressure, A, on the goaltender, and B, on those top 6 forwards, that they need a little more from the bottom half of the lineup, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, well, I mean, the bottom half of the lineup barely played last night. I mean, certainly the fourth line was, as I said, Svechnikov had 3 minutes of ice time. He wasn't on. It was you're chasing the game right from the first period, and you're on the power play the whole time. So but I'm with you. Listen, I will say this: I'm the biggest Hellebuck backer around. I mean, he's the best player on the team. He's been the most important guy for a long time here. He'd be the first one to tell you. I mean, that wasn't one of his best games, and he'd love to have that one back. And I agree with you. And I said to the guys I was watching the game with, this would be a great time to kind of reverse the roles and have the guys up front maybe bail out Connor Hellebuck from an un-Hellebuckian performance. All that being said, it didn't happen last night. What do you make of the power play right now, Ken? Because listen, Nashville could not have been more generous with undisciplined penalties. I said 3 at least, if not 4, 190 feet from their net. And the Jets just weren't able to capitalize on them until they got a 5-on-3. That had to be frustrating for Dave Lowry looking back at the game tape.
For sure. And it's interesting. Sean Reynolds and I were talking. There are some 2005 Winnipeg Jets, a little bit of fibers seeping into the Nashville Predators lineup where just part of the package, right? When you play that kind of a physical brand of hockey, there is going to be a parade to the sin bin on many nights. So the Jets, I mean, I think the puck movement is not crisp enough again. I think that, again, this is easy to say on the sideline armchair quarterback, but I mean, that's part of the job that we have. So to me, I think that Nate Schmidt is a guy who has gotten the puck a little bit quicker to Kyle Connor when it comes to the one-timer. Right now, that option, yes, he got 1 or 2 away, but it's not open as frequently. I think their spacing is a little bit off us. I mean, I think particularly just quickly on the 5-on-3, because again, it's just sort of a snapshot of where things are at. Mark Scheifele way too low on the first 20 seconds of that 5-on-3. Basically, there was only one option. It was the pass from the top to Kyle Connor. Scheifele down more by the goal. I mean, he did reset and recalibrate after the whistle came, but that was one of those situations where I think, and that's just one example of the spacing. I think that Scheifele, he loves to handle the puck along the boards, and that's okay. But they haven't been able to create. See, there's another example. So Pionk, it's a one-timer if it's coming from Kyle Connor, but because Mark Scheifele loves to handle the puck so much on the boards, I think you need Nate Schmidt at the top for the one-timer option so that you can open up Andrew Kopp in the slot, or you can get the cross-seam pass to Kyle Connor, sort of the reverse of the Blake Wheeler to Patrick Laine that we're so used to seeing. We saw at various points of the year, I think Pierre-Luc Dubois is doing a nice job down low. I mean, he's piled up quite a few power play points. He's been able to generate some looks and some retrievals and the screens and all those things, but Jets aren't dangerous enough, Huss, because they're spread out too wide. So Scheifele's too close to the boards, and then when it gets up to Pionk, and when Pionk is playing catch with Kyle Connor, there's too much space in between the two of them, and it's not leading to as dangerous shots as we've been used to seeing. And I mean, I know that some folks are all up in arms, but these are the facts. The Jets miss Blake Wheeler on the power play. I mean, I know he hasn't piled up the same number of points that he has in years past, but he's the guy who the power
could have used him last night. I'll tell you that
much. He's the guy
much.
the power play runs through. So he's the kind of guy that is a key distributor of the puck. But to me, Huss, it's all about the spacing and the puck movement. When you're confident, when you're getting a bunch, you move it quicker. I mean, we saw it early. I mean, Nashville's super hyper aggressive in terms of their penalty kill. That can be effective, but man, it also can leave wide open spaces if you can get the puck moving quickly enough and maybe penetrate one of those.
Well, they did that at one point. I mean, leaving Kyle Connor all alone in front of a goaltender with a couple seconds to figure it out is usually not a recipe for success. But listen, we saw a little bit of why UC Saros could very well be a Vezina Trophy candidate by the time we get to the end of this season. He was brilliant last night. He was the best goalie on the ice. And listen, they won the game. Two huge matchups and tests for Winnipeg going into this weekend. I know you were probably following what was happening at the skate. Anything of note that you took out of what we had today? Although a few players that weren't out there, and tee up these challenge for the Jets awaiting in Beantown and Pittsburgh Saturday and Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, these are massive tests, Huss. I mean, man, the Boston Bruins have had an interesting week for sure. Tuukka Rask being back sounds like he could be between the pipes. Obviously, they will miss Brad Marchand, obviously, but they've had an interesting setup. I mean, Taylor Hall sort of revitalized again. They kind of moved him with David Pasternak for a while. We'll see how the lines shake out with Marchand leaving the lineup. But this is a really good hockey team, a deep hockey team, and a team that still plays with a lot of fire. And when it comes to the Penguins, man, they've ripped off one of the most incredible stretches of the season by any team. And I am including the Colorado Avalanche and Florida Panthers, who have been absolutely dominant of late. So super interesting matchups. I mean, in terms of today, Brendan Dillon feeling quite encouraged. Both Dillon and Eric Comrie on the ice with their teammates today. Dylan, we'll see, right? Officially game time decisions. But I think it's fair to say the Jets want to get Blake Wheeler back in, and they want to get Brendan Dillon back in. I mean, he's the kind of big physical presence that was missed yesterday on a lot of fronts. And again, some of the uproar regarding Wheeler. I mean, hang on. I just want to I'll dive into this quickly to put a bow on it. I mean, with Nikolai Ehlers out, there's no one that has established themselves as a lock on that line. So here's the thing, Hassan. You and I have talked about it. You've talked about it all week with some of the other guys. Nikolai Ehlers and Mark Scheifele, it can be spectacular at times, but it's had a lot of nights where it hasn't resulted in much of anything offensively.
It's been inconsistent. There is no doubt about it.
For sure. So Wheeler, I mean, even if you start him with Adam Lowry, there's no issue. Blake's not stealing someone's job. He's not kicking Yevgeny Svechnikov out of the lineup. I mean, he's not knocking Christian Vesalainen, who has a body of work, saying, hey, man, I'm a top liner. So to me, I mean, I just wrote about the whole competition element with Dave Lowry for my CGOB column this week. I mean, for folks suggesting that Blake Wheeler moving back onto a line with Mark Scheifele is in opposite of that message. I mean, they need the signature line here. That's a wake up, Huss. I mean, this is not a surprise, nor is it a travesty of any kind. For the folks who have forgotten, yes, Blake Wheeler needed 22 games to get his first goal of the season. That's a long time. He knows it. He acknowledged it earlier this year. Blake Wheeler also had a 5-game point streak and accumulated 10 points in the 5 games before he got hurt and played his best game of the season. Is he going to be that player that he was on December 10th tomorrow if he plays? Probably not. But you don't have to say, you have to hide Blake on the fourth line here. We're just talking about the Jets needing an offensive jolt. I mean, if that line is on for 4 or 5 goals against, Dave Lowry's not going to keep them together. But they played well in the stretch of games before he got hurt, and it's natural that he would put them together. It doesn't mean Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele are attached at the hip for the final 44 games. It means that you're starting from a point of reference where you're comfortable and you have some chemistry. Look at yesterday as a great example. Paul Stastny, first game back, had some good moments, but I mean, Dave Lowry felt Vesalainen was going, so he had no issue moving Stastny with Adam Lowry, who they have had chemistry together before, and they had some nice shifts yesterday as well. So, I mean, these are the facts. With Ehlers out week to week, Huss, the Jets need Blake Wheeler. So it doesn't matter where you start him or where he finishes. They need him to be a productive player. So to be saying that Dave Lowry's, contradicting himself by giving him ice time is quite simply a fallacy. Huss.
Well, put it this way. I haven't seen those bad takes, but maybe I just muted those people beforehand. I'm not sure. Hey, listen. Blake Wheeler, I think Wheeler is going to be in beast mode when he comes back. I mean, this is a guy, he's a very proud guy. He's a guy that also knows that this team absolutely needs him, and not just needs him in the lineup, but needs him, as good as he can be. And we were starting to get that before he got hurt. Obviously, an injury, this amount of time out, I don't know what the expectations are coming right back in, but make no mistake about it. If the Jets are going to be where they want to be at the end of the month of February, they are going to need a lot from their captain, number 26, as well as Nikolai Ehlers and Svechnikov and Vesalainen and the like. And we'll see whether we can get back to a spot where Kopp is playing with Lowry again. And who knows, maybe it's Wheeler that ends up with those guys when the lineup is healthy. But, don't hold your breath when every single guy is available to go. I think we've seen enough over the past little while that is not entirely likely. And the bottom line is they don't have time to wait. It's time to get going. Ken, if Brendan Dillon comes back into the lineup, who comes out? Pretty big difference in minutes last night. A big swap from the previous game where Dylan Sandberg played quite a bit more than Logan Stanley.
Yeah, it's been a while since we had to use the term salary cap gymnastics, Huss. We haven't had to use it basically since October. But unless Nikolai Ehlers is going to LTIR, which I think it's too early or premature to suggest that, the Jets are going to have some roster machinations here. Some guys will have to move to the taxi squad. And I mean, at some point, they may have to consider waiving Nate Beaulieu if they're considering keeping, I know where you're going. If you're keeping Dylan Sandberg, I mean, you have to consider waiving Nate Beaulieu and clearing some salary cap space on that front. So in the short term, I mean, your question is simple. It's either Logan Stanley or Dylan Samberg. Dave Lowry wouldn't bite on the answer today. And your point to Dennis as well, and I wrote about it. I mean, Stanley at 10:07 yesterday and Samberg at 14:05. That tells you that yesterday the battle or the competition was won by Dylan Samberg. But
he looked very good on the PK too.
Yeah, he did. But we can't forget Stanley spent 7 minutes in the box or more than 7 minutes of game time. So that would have impacted the variance between the two. But I mean, this is a great example to, practice what you've been preaching. If they can find a way to keep Samberg on the roster, then I think we still see Dylan Samberg in the lineup. And that's not to say that Logan Stanley will be banished, nor should he be. But I think he can benefit from a rest. What I would say, Huss, and I meant to say it on Twitter before, I talked about it with some of my colleagues. Yesterday was a great example of, one of the reasons Logan Stanley's in the lineup is for his physical nature. Now, we know one of his strengths, usually when he's playing at his best, is his puck movement. But if I'm Logan Stanley, going into that game, I'm going to find Tanner Jeannot at some point. He didn't have to wait long based on the circumstances of Jeannot hitting Schmidt from behind. And it doesn't matter this wasn't as one-sided. Jeannot won the fight. There's no doubt about that. But the fact that he stood up and answered the bell, that counts for something, right? So, but to me, I think that Samberg can play a physical game. His puck movement has been steady since coming into the league. And the competition is on. I mean, like I said, I'm not saying here Logan Stanley can't play for the Winnipeg Jets because he can. But right now, I think on the small sample size, in the last 3 games, in the head-to-head, Dylan Samberg, I have him slightly, he's ahead of Logan Stanley right now. So we'll see how that is managed. I also was curious too. I mean, you weren't able to see it, but I asked Dave Lowry about Ville Heinola, and he, quite frankly, admitted what we all thought. He was going to play without getting COVID. So now, because Samberg's kind of jumped the queue on Samberg, Heinola's going to have to wait. I mean, the other thing that we wondered is, maybe you'd consider Heinola because of the puck moving element. If you're only going to make one change, or if you're going to make 2 changes, bring in Dylan and potentially Heinola, but doesn't sound like that will happen on the weekend. But for the folks freaking out, I mean, this is funny to me. Cole Perfetti and Ville Heinola played the same number of games last season in terms of total games played, right around 50 when you consider World Junior, time in the Finnish League, time with the Jets, time with the Moose. And Perfetti played, the 32 at the Moose, had his World Junior experience, went to the World Championship. I mean, all these people saying that the Jets have parked Ville Heinola, how will he ever recover? He played the same number of games. Does it look like it's hurting Cole Perfetti right now, having played the same number of games as Ville Heinola? No, he's playing his best hockey. So I understand the frustration. And hey, Huss, we've said this. I want to see Ville Heinola in the Jets lineup too, because he has a skill set that the Jets could use on certain nights. But their issue right now, and what I wrote about in Sportsnet this morning, I mean, how the Jets are going to manage life going into the trade deadline, to me, is absolutely fascinating because of the surplus on defense. Who are you hitching your wagon to, and which prospects are you making room for, and when, right? Cole Perfetti is an interesting story. I mean, I'm with Dennis. I don't see the burning of the first year as an issue. And in fact, in some ways, it could help the Jets long-term, because this year, Cole Perfetti's not going to pile up big numbers. So when he needs his next deal, it's probably not going to cost you as much.
They want to win games right now. They want to win games right now. And it's quite clear. Cole Perfetti gives them a better chance of winning, especially playing the way that he is right now. And if he can play in that role, it gives you more options. Potentially have a Blake Wheeler playing with Adam Lowry and Andrew Kopp if everyone's healthy. It puts a spot with Nikolai Lee.
Right, Huss? It stretches their lineup, which is what we've been talking about them needing to do the entire season.
No doubt.
So,
Kenny.
But the problem, though, you got 6 guys under contract for multiple seasons, and you have 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 that are kind of pushing for work. So, I mean, it's great to have depth, but those numbers aren't going to work long term. They're not sustainable. So you have to choose wisely. And you have to get something back in return if you choose to move on from one of them.
No doubt about it. Kenny, hey, listen, thanks so much for doing this. Folks, check the Kenny and Rennie YouTube page, both the post game and the chat with Tara Sloan yesterday. That was great. A lot of music talk. Didn't know you had that club in the bag, Kenny. Hey, thanks for doing this. Going to be a wild weekend. Enjoy both the hockey and the football. And we'll get the band back together next week. Thanks, pal.
Thank you, Hassa. One quick one. Tough day in Altona, my hometown this week. Wilbur Funk, Big Red, passed away this year. A great community builder. He was one of the best umpires, enthusiastic. Anyone who's played baseball in southern Manitoba would know who Big Red was. Tough day, but he lived a very great life, and I feel very fortunate to have had him as part of my life as well. So R.I.P. Big Red.
Thanks, Weber. Enjoy the weekend. We'll look forward to you and Randy get after it after the games.
Cheers, my man. Thanks again.
Thanks so much. There it is. Ken Wiebe at Wiebe's World. You can check out his latest at Sportsnet.ca and over at CJOB.com. Huge weekend coming up. We've got Adam Bighill and Hacksaw and a marble race still to come. Cheers your friends and your favorite teams on the weekend with the great taste of Little Brown Jug. Free delivery all month long of January. Go to littlebrownjug.ca and order, and I believe a free pint coupon with every $40 spent. And of course, you can get those delicious pints and pick up all that great beer down at Little Brown Jug on William Avenue. The 1919, the Winter Variety Pack, the Brute IPA, brewed for the 5th anniversary. It's all there. And of course, you can pick up the great taste of Little Brown Jug at your local beer store or get that 1919 at your favorite bar and restaurant. Scotty's gets going next week. We'll have plenty of that on Winnipeg Sports Talk on our Princess Auto curling reports. Princess Auto, of course, is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. 2 local locations, national headquarters, family owned right here in Winnipeg. And of course, you can shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. And I think I'm going to be making a trip down to BP, checking out with some friends tomorrow afternoon, watching the Jet game and keeping an eye on the Tennessee Titans and the Cincinnati Bengals. Boston Pizza Lounges will be a great spot to take in all the games on the weekend while enjoying ice cold schooners, gourmet pizzas, and of course, those amazing Boston's wings. And if the weather's got you down and you're staying inside, I don't blame you. Hit them up online, bostonpizza.com. Check out those great game day meals and order for delivery citywide and throughout southern Manitoba. All right, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton coming up in just a few minutes. But we did have an opportunity to catch up with Adam Bighill a little earlier today, right before the program. Adam Bighill, of course, signing an extension yesterday with the Blue and Gold, which was followed up by the big announcement that quarterback Zach Collaros as well. Huge day for the Bombers. It started off with Adam Bighill back. Here is our combo with the reigning most outstanding defensive player in the Canadian Football League. Adam, great to have you back on WST, and congratulations on the new deal. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. Always good to be here. And yeah, exciting.
Exciting for everyone, exciting for fans, I'm sure, with you and your family. First off, before we even get to the deal, congratulations on running it back. What an incredible run your club had there at the end of 2021, winning the Grey Cup again, the big celebration. Obviously, it was just in time with what's happened with the virus. Everyone's sort of shutting it down. But what do you remember about that victory? And are you still on a high from winning another championship with your teammates?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite the run. With that game, I remember it pretty vividly throughout the whole thing, just because it was such a quarter by quarter game. If you had the win, you had the opportunity, and we finished the game with a win, knowing that we were going to have a good opportunity to win the game. And so I mean, but you really just can't forget that electrifying moment when we get the pick and we're celebrating. I mean, it's just the game ends on one play, and it's just such a good feeling that it's over and that it's yours. I mean, if you go back to 2019, we handled that game pretty well, and this was a little bit more of a fight. So it was electrifying.
Well, and you mentioned that final play. I mean, as the guy that was the nominee as the most outstanding defensive player, I know you said it yourself when you won the award. I mean, this was as much of a team award as there ever maybe was, just because of how historically good that defense was. I can't imagine a more appropriate way to win a championship than on a walk-off pick that 3 guys touched the ball on.
Yeah, no, it was. You said it right. I mean, it's something that.
What's up, Bo?
Well, you wanted to wear your Bomber jersey today?
He's looking good.
Yeah, he wanted to wear his Bombers. Can you wave hi?
What's up, Bo? How are you?
Good. All right, Daddy's going to do a call, okay? Yeah, I mean, it was really, cementing the legacy of the year for our defense and writing and finishing that final chapter. Um, and we've been able to do a lot of special things throughout the entire year, and for us to win the game when we needed to, and with our opportunity, yeah, very fitting. So, I don't think the story could have been written much better.
Now, we'll get right into that CFL offseason, a little shorter this year because of the timing of the season. You've seen a number of your teammates re-sign over the last couple of weeks, and yesterday you put pen to paper. Was it a difficult decision, difficult negotiation? Tell us about how it all came about.
Yeah, I mean, it was something, I was in talks with them early, and we're trying to get something done early. It took a little bit longer than I would have wanted, but at the end of the day, happy nonetheless that we're here now and everything's completed. So, been great seeing a lot of my teammates signing and coming back, and it just gives me a good feeling of confidence that we're going to have that continuity again moving forward, which was such a big deal. And obviously Zach signing after me on the same day, I mean, it's just another huge rubber stamp on what we're coming to do in 2022. So yeah, great feeling. Couldn't be happier. I mean, the process to getting it done, it wasn't that hard. I mean, I'm happy. I think I said it in the media yesterday at my press conference. I by no means did I maximize my value in my contract. You got to go to free agency to do that. But that really wasn't my focus. So we were able to work out a deal that worked for everybody.
Well, and that's a common theme we've heard from a number of players. I mean, we had a similar conversation with Jackson Jeffcoat last week. And I think it's very clear that the winning, the culture that Mike O'Shea and the organization has created makes guys want to stay. But in addition, for you, I mean, he's a guy with a young family that's gotten involved with business interest outside of football here in the city. It really does seem like Team Bighill was a perfect marriage for Winnipeg. Would you agree? And why has that been? And has it been even better than you imagined when you first came here to Winnipeg?
Yeah, I think it's just continued to be even better than I thought it would be. I mean, you just keep building this momentum of, win Defensive Player of the Year, win a Grey Cup, and then win a Grey Cup and Defensive Player of the Year. And, I've been able to start another career as a financial advisor, and that's been building and going very well. And, everything's just starting to snowball the right ways. And, Winnipeg's been great and treated us since we've been here, treated us great since we've arrived. And the organization's been the best I've played for as far as how they handle business and take care of the players, and, how the coaches go about their business. I mean, it's just it's been everything that I wanted, and then it's only gotten better. So it's really wasn't that hard to think about where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do.
Pretty clear that what you guys have built is something that, has already resulted in 2 championships, and there is a goal to do it again. What have the group texts been like over the last week or so with the boys on the team as Jackson, Willie, yourself, Zach all get inked up before going to free agency when, as you mentioned, I think we all knew there probably would have been a little bit more money out there if you guys had decided to go that route?
Yeah, everyone was kind of, texting back and forth. Everyone, what's your situation? Are they talking to you? Are you coming back? And, is it looking good? And so everyone kind of just guys get feelers, like, okay, is it going to work out? And then, a couple people sign. It's like, okay, we're going to go for a three-peat or what, So it's kind of been the chat as a reason, like, let's go do it again. So, that's definitely where everybody's mindset is. And I think it states how much we enjoy playing with each other, how much we love winning, and really recognizing how much we like Winnipeg, and we think it's the best opportunity to do it.
How would you describe the relationship between your team and the city and the fans? Because, I mean, as someone that's grown up here and has watched, hundreds and hundreds of different incarnations of professional teams, it really does seem like there's just a unique connection between your teammates and the appreciation that goes both ways with the people that fill the stadium wearing blue on game day.
Yeah, you know what? We do a great job of being in the community and being out there. The Bombers do a fantastic job, and there's a lot of guys that give their time. Me being one of them, I enjoy giving my time. You know, I mean, got some guys that are really good with social media too. I mean, between Willie, myself, and, you know, Andrew, some other guys that are active on social media, you know, people can engage and talk and, you know, have conversations and, you know, feel like they're not being ignored. And so I think that's important. I enjoy reaching out and staying connected with people on social media. And I appreciate that, you know, they feel like that's what they want to do. I mean, you know, I play for myself and my family, but I also play for the fans, and because, you know, I hope to inspire young kids to be great, and I hope to entertain people so that, you know, they think there's nothing better than going to the IG field, you know, on game night, you know, it's just stuff like that. So I mean, it's you know, there is a good connection. Our fans are great. I hope that we continue to give them everything they want, and, you know, that they feel appreciated and loved as much as, you know, we really do love and appreciate it.
Adam Bighill back at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, looking for a third straight Grey Cup championship with the blue and gold next season, with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. How'd you celebrate? You know, once, you know, we got through that week, or you had the event at the stadium, how did you gear down after the season? And was it mostly with the family, or did you get away at all? Or what have you been up to for the last month or so?
Well, it was mostly with the family through the holiday season, just really laying low and just getting ready, doing Christmas, and so last minute shopping, stuff like that, and just not doing anything, which was just so great. Good family time. And then me and the wife, Christina, we were able to get out to Maui for 10 days, just me and her, while the grandparents looked after the kids. So
nice.
That was much needed, and pretty refreshed coming back. And, you know, now I'm taking that fresh energy and shoveling snow.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of snow to be shoveled right now, as anyone would know around here right now. What are the next couple months like for you? I mean, give us a day. I mean, are you doing a lot of work outside with the financial planning, as you mentioned? Is that a big part of your day right now? And at what point do you start ramping up to, you know, get in shape for camp? Or is that something that is pretty much a 12-month job for you at this point?
Yeah. I mean, so I do both jobs, you know, all year round. It's just the way I position my time just changes a bit. You know, I'm generally at the office every day downtown, doing investment advising, and you know, so typical day is I need to be at the gym to work out around 5, and I need to be usually done around 7:30, 8, to be able to get into the office, and, you know, I'm usually coming back around 4:35. So you know, that's kind of the typical day. I mean, I do some coaching a couple mornings a week for Recruit Ready, and they go out and coach, and I do some Bombers coaching in the evenings for the free program they have for Bomber Skills Camp. So you know, I'm kind of just always on the go and always moving and always staying busy, that's for sure.
Well, kind of just like you are on the football field, to be perfectly honest. Adam Bighill with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. When you look ahead to 2022, I mean, you signed the contract. We've talked about the other guys that have come on. Is it pretty clear there's one goal, and it's to do something that the Canadian Football League hasn't seen since the 80s, and that's a 3-time champion in a row?
Yeah, that's obviously top of mind, and you get excited when you kind of talk about it, because you know how important that is, just with it not being done in a very, very long time. And in this era of football, maybe being considered even a different kind of task and chore to be able to complete. So, you know, it's there's a lot of work to be done, as always, but it's starting now, and that's the important part. Guys are getting lined up to come back, and the training is starting. And, you know, when you see us in training camp, that's not when the work begins. It's already happening right now. So that's a big thing. Everyone's focused on, going to get another one, go for a three-peat.
Well, we heard General Manager Kyle Walters mention that was the goal at the big party, and he's certainly doing his job right now. Speaking of management and the guys that you work with and work for, how big was in coming back was the opportunity to continue playing for Mike O'Shea, and maybe just some words on the coach and what he's meant to these back-to-back championship squads?
Yeah, you know, I love playing for Mike. Just a fantastic coach. a fantastic person, does it all the right way, cares about the player, cares about the person, cares about the family, cares about all the right things to make sure you can get the best out of yourself. Pushes you when you need to be pushed, and lets you manage and run yourself until otherwise need be. So he gets it. For me playing, my position and him being a Hall of Famer at the same position, we have great conversations around the game of football and linebacker as well. So, that's special. I just think he does such a good job with the culture and being consistent and having a process that we can stick to that really allows us to focus on what creates success. And that to me is the most important thing, because it's not random. It was this week, it was this, and that week it was this. It's every week these are the components that create success for us. And he just does a great job of sticking to that, and we do a great job of buying in. So, if I look at the best opportunity in the CFL to win, it's with Mike O'Shea and the Bombers right now.
Adam, this has been so much fun having you back. I mean, obviously, we're seeing in the chat people absolutely fired up that incredible day for the Bombers yesterday, getting yourself and Zach Collaros both signed. All systems go for 2022. Before we go, I've got to ask you, we had a nice little cameo from your little guy, Bo, earlier. How's the family doing? And what's next going into 2022 for Team Bighill before you get back on the gridiron this year, looking for a third championship here in the Peg?
Yeah, no, family's good. I mean, it's a little bit tough to get to school today, so it's a home day for the kids. We'll do some homeschooling, but we wanted to get away, get a little travel trip. I wanted to take them to Disney World after we won the Grey Cup, but travel right now is a little bit tricky, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to make that work this year. With that being said, we're going to continue to have fun and make sure these kids are staying active in their sports and different activities here in the city. We love to go to Uptown Alley and go bowling and do arcade. We love going up there and just jump parks, just doing a bunch of fun things.
You still have a burger at Uptown Alley, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah.
It's a beast, isn't it?
The Big Hilla Godzilla burger. If you haven't had it, I would go get it, because you've been missing out this whole time.
May have to pop by there on the weekend in time for some playoff football, get a little takeover order and try and take that one down. Adam, listen, from all the Bomber fans in the chat and here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, so great to hear that you're coming back. Congratulations again on another championship. You guys have done some really special things for this community, and can't wait to see you try to do it again next season. All the best. Be well.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. As always, appreciate you. Take care.
Thanks, Adam. Oh, man, great stuff with Adam Bighill. Nice little cameo from Bo, rocking the number 4 in blue. Very happy that Dad's staying in Winnipeg, almost as happy as everyone here. Great to have Adam Bighill back with the Bombers along with Zach Collaros, and really appreciate him joining us today on Winnipeg Sports Talk. We've got a lot more football to get to. Huge weekend in the National Football League Friday. That means a visit with Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Do want to remind you all that our friends at Nick and Nicky DQ are ready for the weekend and ready for, maybe one of the best sports weekends of the entire year. We got matinee Jets games leading into NFL playoff doubleheaders, and maybe the best weekend of the year when it comes to the 4-down game. What goes well with that? Burgers, fries, chicken fingers, not to mention the new Buffalo chicken fingers they've got available for you at DQ Niverville, DQ Northgate, DQ Polo Park, and DQ St. Anne's. And even on short notice, the Nick and Nicky DQ group can get a delicious DQ ice cream cake ready for you. Maybe the easiest thing to do is hit up on Instagram at DQ Manitoba. If you want something custom made, or just pop by any of the 4 Nick and Nicky DQs, grab that, maybe a few novelties as well, and get set up for the weekend. Big thanks to Nick and Nicky for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk since day one. We do have a marble race coming up before the end of the program, and we will get to the Coolbet Lines in a few minutes. But right now, let's welcome in our go-to guy for the National Football League, the one, the only, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. You know the website, leehacksawhamilton.com, as we get ready for the final 8 in the NFL. Hacksaw, what's going on?
Are you hearing Lee?
No.
Lee, we can't hear you.
Lee, you might be muted.
No, I don't know. Maybe get out and get back in. I'm not sure. We can't hear.
Weird. Having an issue hearing. The legendary.
There you go.
There we go. Hacksaw's back. Hacksaw, what's going on? How are you? Ready for this weekend or what?
Yeah, I am. Listen, I saw the piece in The Athletic about you and Winnipeg Sports Talk. Do I need to have my people call your people to make an appointment for me now to talk to you that you're amongst the rich and famous globally?
Give me a break. That's the beauty about taking away a lot of levels of this. We can do it ourselves and do it directly. It was really nice of Sean Fitzgerald to reach out with us with a little update, and we're going to have some fun kind of commemorating what was a very dark day for all of us in our old station with a bunch of our old pals from the old station coming up in a couple of weeks for it. But no, that's
I've been there and done that. Trust me on that. And by the way, your last guest, you were talking about what he was wearing. Well, I see his jersey, but I raised my jersey. And you tell me how many people in Southern California are wearing Winnipeg Jets gear.
Look at the Hacksaw dropping in a little Jets garb for the boys today. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Well, I tell you, we've talked a lot of hockey so far. Actually, it's going to be a great weekend. We got a big game against the Bruins tomorrow and then a noon start against Pittsburgh. But I know for many people, the main event of this weekend is going to be these 4 divisional games. Lee, just before we get into this week, I do want to ask you about the demise of the Dallas Cowboys. I made a joke all week long. I just couldn't wait to bet against Mike McCarthy in the playoffs. 14 penalties, a disastrous ending sequence. That was just basically, it seemed like it brought in so many of the inconsistencies and the problems that have plagued Mike McCarthy over the last few years into one game on a national stage that ended their season.
Yeah, he's got one more playoff win in Dallas than a dead man. It's just a bad scenario. I would have never guessed that Cowboy football would have ended the way it did this past weekend. They've been beset by a lot of problems, injuries in the offensive line. Running game is no longer what the running game used to be. You know, Pollard looked like he was about to replace Ezekiel Elliott as the lead guy because he's so explosive, and then Pollard got hurt. Secondary had injuries, but I thought in the big picture, I thought the defense has played a heck of a lot better this year than it did a year ago. But, man, the play calling at the end was kind of skitterish and kind of iffy. And I know they're paying an enormous amount of money to Amari Cooper. And do you tell me that Amari Cooper is a game changer on Sunday-by-Sunday basis? I don't. There seem to be an awful lot of empty weekends as it relates to him. And then obviously, for some reason, either San Francisco took away CeeDee Lamb or they didn't go to CeeDee Lamb. He wasn't targeted very well. So it just ended really badly. That being said, the 2 most important people on the planet, at least in the Lone Star State, Jerry and Stephen Jones, have McCarthy's back. They're not making a change. They're going to go forward with him. But yeah, it was really a crappy ending to what I thought was going to be a pretty good season. But back half of the schedule didn't play really well. So yeah, I, and everybody in the Lone Star State questioning, how did we get to this point? The Cowboys are like you and me now. They're watching the games on TV, which is hard to believe.
You know what the funny thing is about that is that Jimmy Garoppolo gave them plenty of opportunities to get right back in that football game, a game that they frankly didn't really deserve to be in, and yet they were. Which brings me to this Niners-Packers game tomorrow night. You laid it out on your website. I mean, the 49ers are actually built to be a cold weather playoff team. They run the ball as well as any team in the NFL. They scheme the running game as well as any team, and a lot of credit goes to Kyle Shanahan. And they use more than just their running backs with the dynamic Deebo Samuel will be there. The one thing that the Packers have had a tough time doing is stopping the run, Lee. Are the 49ers a live dog at Lambeau tomorrow, do you think?
I think they're a dangerous dog because that's why I wrote what I wrote. I really think they're built to play cold weather football. They do pound the football, and it's just not the one running back. I mean, Deebo has become an ultra back. He's running it. He's got explosiveness. They run a lot of jet sweeps with him. He's not afraid to run it up and inside, and if he gets to the second level, he busts big plays. They don't have what I'd call sexy names at wide receiver or tight end. Those guys catch balls, though. And Garoppolo, for the most part, even though he's banged up, is kind of managing the games and occasionally making plays down the field. on the defensive side of the football, they do punch you in the mouth. That's a cold weather defense. So, yeah, I think they can hang in there. I think they probably want to run it and try to shorten the game to keep the other guy, Aaron Rodgers, off the field. But as I also wrote, when you look at Green Bay, do you know that Aaron Rodgers' record at Lambeau Field is 86-12-1 at home? So you got the Packers, the quarterback, the 3 wide receivers, the 2 heavy-duty running backs in Aaron Jones and A.J. Barrett, and their defense in cold weather. That's a lot of things for San Francisco to overcome. And if there was ever an important time for them to be in Lambeau Field, it's now for Aaron Rodgers. I'd like to think San Francisco can hang with them for 4 quarters. They're just going to have to shorten the game and not give Aaron Rodgers 12 possessions. You know, you can get excited about, well, we shut him down for the first 3 possessions. Yeah, what the hell are you going to do about the other 8 possessions? He's going to get his hands on the ball. So I still think Green Bay's going to win, but San Francisco is built to play in Lambeau Field weather, I think.
Let's stay in the NFC. The Rams coming off just an absolute demolition of the Cardinals, and the Cards faded out. Many people thought they would. An ugly performance by that squad, but the Rams had that ugly second half in the final game that allowed the Niners to make the playoffs, and now they're going on the road to Tampa. But I got to tell you, the Rams looked real good on Monday night, Lee, and this Tampa team, as great as Tom Brady is, he doesn't have the weapons that he had last year. They've been dealing with some more injuries. How vulnerable do you think the Buccaneers are to a Rams team coming in with some steam after that big win on Monday night?
I think the Rams have to leave the breakfast table aggressive. I think they got to come out, and I think they got to throw the ball down the field. And Matthew Stafford and Odell Beckham have really figured it out. I credit Sean McVay. It's taken him about 4 weeks to find roles for OBJ. Took Cleveland 2 years to do it, and they never, ever did. I'll tell you, Beckham on one side and Cooper Kupp on the other side and thrown to the tight end, Tyler Higbee, that's pretty impressive. And they have now had flashes where the running backs, whether it's Sonny Michel or whether it's Cam Akers, can run it and also catch it out of the backfield. So right now, these guys are hitting on all cylinders. But I think they have to be ultra aggressive. Maybe they have to make this a throwing contest to subdue Tampa. Tom Brady, obviously, historically brilliant. But he's down 120 receptions. I mean, there is no wide receiver there. There is no Antonio Brown. There is no, the kid out of Penn State's gone for the year. Can you philosophically win with a 2 tight end offense? And that's kind of what they've become. Leonard Fournette's going to try to play this weekend, but the running game is not the same when he's not there. There's an awful lot on Brady, and Brady's dangerous. But I just think the Rams can be ultra aggressive. Fascinating matchup. Where does Mike Evans go? He lines up here. Where does Jalen Ramsey go? He lines up here in single coverage. What a battle that's going to be, snap by snap. And if Ramsey can hold his own, that means the rest of the defense is going to be able to umbrella themselves in some form or fashion to defend those tight ends. But not having Chris Godwin, not having Antonio Brown, to me, is a huge loss, as brilliant as Brady is. I think there could be an upset in the making if they're aggressive and if the Rams quarterback does not turn the football over.
Well, and we know that, and that's a huge part of it. And that hasn't always been the case for Matt Stafford so far this year, especially in their losses. And then, of course, you got a guy wearing number 99 on that Rams defensive line that can change a game on his own from the interior. And we know the best way to minimize the damage Brady does is hit him and put him on his rear end. And Aaron Donald will be ready to go for that. Early game tomorrow is the Titans and the Bengals. This is a fascinating game in a lot of ways. I mean, the Titans, they're the number 1 seed. Both of these teams somehow lost to the New York Jets this season, Lee, which is a kind of a bizarre stat for this game. And obviously, Joe Burrow has proven himself to be a big game player in college, and he was a big game player last Saturday. What do you think the chances the Bengals go on and keep this dream season alive into the AFC Championship game?
Well, normally I would say the wheels fall off Cinderella's carriage this weekend in Nashville. But knowing who Mike Vrabel is and knowing how Tennessee plays, I think the wheels are going to get knocked off the carriage. Tennessee is a really rugged team at home. They are huge. They are physical. And now they get Derrick Henry back at running back, although I don't know if he's going to be vintage heavy-duty Derrick Henry. But they're just a really street-tough football side. And I'll tell you, that defensive front, that they've got is really good. That number 1 draft pick of 2 years ago, Jeffrey Simmons, just blows people up in the defensive front, and they're pretty active at linebacking. So I think it's going to be hard for Joe Burrow. The one thing we know about the Bengals is that he does throw the ball down the field, and he's got that threesome of wide receivers, and Joe Mixon can bust big plays. But the other thing we know is they give up a lot of sacks and a lot of hits, and that plays right into the hands of Jeffrey Simmons and everything else that Tennessee's got on the defensive front seven side. It's been a nice run for Cincinnati. You know, they finally got a playoff win, first time since about 1991. Now they've not won a playoff game on the road, I think, dating back to the 1980s, which is a really long time. I just don't think they're going to do it. Tennessee is so tough. And before they had all the injuries, I thought they were maybe as hard a team to line up and slug with in the AFC. And now they got most of their injured guys back, the left tackle, the left guard, and Derrick Henry. It's going to be a fun game, but no place for the timid in Nashville this weekend, that's for certain.
No doubt about it. And then we finished off with the main event, the Bills and the Chiefs, and on both teams. And we kind of had a fun time kicking around. I mean, what was the more impressive quarterback performance? Was it Josh Allen leading his team to a touchdown every single time they got the football against the Bill Belichick defense? Or was it Patrick Mahomes putting up 5 touchdown passes in 10.5 minutes of game time and quickly and swiftly ending the Big Ben era in Pittsburgh? Lee, this is a 2-point spread. I mean, essentially saying the Bills might be a slight favorite on a neutral field, but Arrowhead is a significant home field advantage. How do you handicap this one?
Oh, they're both cold weather teams. The elements don't bother either one of them. And Allen continues to kind of carry the flag. I mean, you look at his passing yardage, then you look at his rushing yardage, scrambling out of trouble. I mean, the guy continues to do it, and he takes big hits, and he continues to make big plays. That being said, Patrick Mahomes is 50-13 as a starting quarterback in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes is 30-7 at Arrowhead. And they're really dangerous. They've got all these weapons. Now, there's no doubt that Sean McVay's defense is really good. I think they're giving up 271 yards per game, and they're holding opposing quarterbacks to 30% conversion rate on third downs. I mean, those are really vibrant defensive stats that Buffalo brings with them out of the locker room onto the field. But this is Mahomes, and this is Tyreek Hill, and this is Travis Kelce. And now they've figured out a way to use Mecole Hardman, and they've figured out a way to use their 4th and 5th receivers. And the running backs are making enough plays, running at some, catching it out of the backfield. This is just, there's too many bullets in Patrick Mahomes' gun, I think, for Buffalo's defense to be able to handle. But Buffalo's going to come out. I think they got to make it a throwing game, too, to be in this one with Kansas City. But I'm picking the Chiefs, and I'm picking the Titans, and I'm picking the Rams in an upset, and I'm picking Green Bay to go to the AFC-NFC championship game a week from now.
Oh, it's going to be such an amazing weekend. Hey, Lee, before we go, it has been interesting. I don't know about you. I've been sort of surprised that, with all these coaching vacancies right now, we haven't seen very many triggers pulled on new guys. I mean, what do you make of the coaching? And maybe just a quick comment. Is Jim Harbaugh destined for Vegas?
Well, let's start. There's 8 head coaching jobs open because I don't think Rich Bisaccia is coming back to Las Vegas. There are 4 GM jobs open. Nobody's talked about that. But as of this hour, about 30 minutes ago, it looks as if 2 of the GM jobs are about to close. And the minute the New York Giants hire Joe Shane from the Buffalo Bills, and I think that's about to happen, and the minute Minnesota makes a hire, they're going to bring Ryan Poles of Kansas City back in for a second interview. He may be there today, or maybe it's tomorrow. The minute those GM jobs start to close, then I think you're going to see these other hires. I think the hottest name to be hired is going to be Brian Flores. And I think Flores might wind up with the New York Football Giants because he's got a relationship with Joe Shane, who's about to be hired out of Buffalo. So that'll close one job. I don't know what's going to happen in the other places. The Raiders are out kind of looking for ideas. They got to hire a GM first, I think, before they hire a head coach. But this is important because Mark Davis's organization seems to be in utter disrepair. Eric Bieniemy is interviewing as we speak via Zoom call, I believe, in Denver with the Denver Broncos. We'll see whether that domino falls there. But, I mentioned I was on a couple of other national talk shows on Sirius XM the other night, and I mentioned this is a really eclectic group of coaching candidates. I mean, we've got some real veteran coaches that have kind of rallied back Todd Bowles has repaired his reputation. Leslie Frazier has repaired his reputation. Dan Quinn has done the exact same thing. These guys are going to be part of the mix, in addition to these hot offensive coordinators that may be out there. I don't think anybody's touching anybody from the college ranks unless Jim Harbaugh changes his mind to leave and go to Ann Arbor. But what does that say about Mark Davis? Is he hiring the shiny new object again? Because, boy, his last group of hires haven't been real good. So, but I do think, as I said at the onset, the minute these first two GM dominoes fall, I think you're going to see the coaching hires then happen pretty quickly.
Yeah, I have a feeling we'll probably get some more clarity on a number of those next week, and hopefully we can do this again, getting ready for the AFC and NFC championship games. Great stuff getting ready for the playoffs over at LeeHacksawHamilton.com, folks. Make sure to go check it out. Lee, enjoy the weekend. Thanks for doing this, and hopefully we can catch up next week before we find out who will be advancing to LA for the big game.
Beer Friday, I'll put it down in my date book. And I just saw a note on Twitter, and we always know that everything on Twitter is true. That guy from Winnipeg just tweeted, "My shirt's better than your shirt. I win again." Thank you.
You're the best, Lee, and the best dressed guy on the program today as well. How about that? Hacksaw coming in with the Jets tee today. Gotta love that. Oh, one of our favorites. Follow him on Twitter at Hacksaw1090, and make sure to check out the website, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. All right, we have some thank yous to give out. Brad, Roy, and Rob Mahoney. Guys, thanks so much for doing that. That's amazing. Rob Mahoney throwing down a jiu-jitsu lesson for little Remo so we can go at it. You might need a few to go off against Bo Bighill at some point in the future. Obviously, Bo looks so cute in that Big Hill jersey when he joined us earlier on. And Brad, thanks so much, man. That's amazing. Anyone to beat Nicole, Remo Gafford needs new shoes. Guys, thanks so much. Very generous. Maybe that's some good karma because Remis, you know what's coming up in just a minute. The marble race. Fridays, I know we've gone a little long today, but we'll go a little long. Oh, free Oleg's in there. Oleg heard Mr. Michael Remis offering amnesty. Oleg seeks forgiveness. #marbles. That might be a nice little lead in to open up the marbles, Remis, and get going. Maybe while we do that, we can get into the Coolbet Lines. How does that sound?
I like that plan. Yeah, shout out to Rob and Roy. Sorry, Brad Roy, and free Oleg on. I don't even know what to make of all this stuff. And does anyone doesn't know, I guess we need to remind each week that one time some guy named Oleg spammed marbles in chat, and I tossed him very quickly.
He got thrown over the top rope in one of the most notorious evictions of the chat room yet so far this year. Okay. So are we on yet?
I just opened it.
Okay,
Some
perfect.
people jumped the gun a bit early. So if you jumped it a bit early, before I just said I just opened it, then type it in again. Exclamation marbles, so we can get to the lines. Oh, I see some names in here. Sean Asor, what's up?
Asor's awesome. In the house?
Asor's in the house, yeah.
Asor, one of our all-time favorites. Our boys back from the old 1290 days. Great to have Sean with us live today. A bit of a fishing magnate now for any of you folks on the east side of Lake Winnipeg that like to wet a line, if you know what I'm saying. All right, exclamation mark marbles. If you want in on the marble race, we will have a co-branded Winnipeg Sports Talk and Canadian Club hoodie for the winner today. And again, we've got a couple sizes right now. We have ordered more, so hopefully if you win, we've got one for you right now. If not, it will be coming. All right, while you all get in on the marble race, let's do a quick update of the Coolbet Lines for the weekend. Did do a new episode of The Lock Shop with Dustin Nielsen just before Winnipeg Sports Talk started today. You can check my Twitter feed or Dusty's Twitter feed for the full video of it. But if you're listening on the podcast, or just do us a favor, if you would, go to your podcast feed, type in The Lock Shop, give us a subscription, and listen to it and take it in. We've got a fun competition going head-to-head throughout the playoffs. Pretty tough for me last week. I had a great week. I went 4-2. 17 of 21 points on the confidence picks, and that jerk Dustin Nielsen ran the table, went a perfect 6-0. So do have a little bit of work to be done, but we're head-to-head on this Chiefs-Bills game this week, which could be a big, big swing game. And Abbott jumping on the Titans with his 6-point game, and we both went Bengals with our least amount of confidence for it. So it'll be a fun weekend in the lock shop. Check that out if you wouldn't mind. All right, Bengals 3.5-point favorites, or sorry, 3.5-point underdogs in Tennessee for the early game tomorrow, and then at night it's the Niners and the Packers. Niners getting 5.5 points on the road. Sunday afternoon, the Rams 3-point underdogs in Tampa against the Buccaneers, and the Chiefs are 2-point favorites at home against the Buffalo Bills. We have our partner parlay, by the way, for the lock shop, also cashed last week. We got it boosted from plus 315 to 400, 4-1. Pretty much the exact same odds. I think our number ended up being at let's see, it was I think plus 314 once we put the picks in. And now it's been boosted up to plus 400. You got it there. I took the Rams plus 4.5, got an extra 1.5 points. We've got the Niners up to plus 7.5, and Bills Chiefs over 49.5, all to win. All of those three come in, and you'll get a boosted number of up to 4-1. So jump on that. It's under boosted odds specials at coolbet.com if you're listening on the podcast. What do we got tonight in the National Hockey League? We got 7, 8 games tonight. Still no lines yet for the afternoon action tomorrow, 2 p.m. for the Jets and Bruins. I wouldn't be surprised if those numbers are up maybe a little bit later on in the evening. They'll certainly be up in the morning for you to get on it if you want to make a bet beforehand. And speaking of the morning, I will be jumping on at noon tomorrow with Kelly Moore and the guys on OB to contribute to their pre-game show. Coolbet.com, if you haven't bet there before, use the promo code WST. We'll give you a 100% deposit up to $200 on your first deposit. You have anything to say about the football games, Remo? Do you have a game or a team or a line or a side that you like?
Hold on. Well, I know the draft. I've been looking at DraftKings. I know the salaries. Everyone's seemingly so cheap. Whatever Cooper Kupp, I like him to have a big game. I'm taking the overs and on him. Man, I haven't really looked at it too closely. The NFL, I'm going to be completely honest, but I'll go with, who am I going to go with here? Someone was asking me, has to go up against you, Chiefs or Bills. I think I might have to go Bills, man. I don't know, just so we can go head to head.
I'll take on all
Dusty
comers.
already did it.
Hey, in a lot of ways, I basically have a $40 bet with Ryan Friesen on this game.
Yeah.
Because if you recall from like 3 or 4 months ago, when Ryan infamously said that the Chiefs wouldn't make the playoffs, and then we got into a little back and forth, we do have a $40 wager on whether the Chiefs will be in the AFC Championship game, which essentially means if they win. So Monday, we will have clarity on this. Ryan, you can either be emailing it to me or you can do your victory lap, and I'll be very depressed too. So it'll be a great time for you to come in on Stunt on Me if, in fact, the Bills win and the Chiefs don't make the AFC Championship game. That's the final game on Sunday afternoon after we get the Rams and Buccaneers kicking off at 2 p.m. Art Trevison, good luck to all in your weekend bets. Thanks, Art. Great stuff. All right, I think we can finish it up and now close the marble race, and we'll get everybody in. Last call, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, we're closed. I figured that wouldn't go very well on it. I don't know. Is Friesen in here today? Does he have any thoughts on this game today? I don't know. I haven't been able to see the chat too much, but
I haven't seen Ryan Friesen or Ryan Friesen's clogged toilet in the chat either. So I don't know if they're going to be in the race.
All right. How many people we have? How many contestants today with marbles in today's race?
It's a packed race. 147 people.
Wow.
So I don't know if that's a record.
Pushing 150.
It's close.
By the way, if you're in, make sure that you've subscribed. Got to be subscribed to win. And all it does, just press the red button. It just lets you be in with us. We've turned the notifications on if you'd like, but just make sure you've hit that red subscribe button. And for the love of God, please help us out and hit that thumbs up button. Would be nice to get up to 200 as we do the marble race. All right, we've got all the contestants in. We've got the marbles ready to go. Where will Marble Commissioner Michael Remis be taking us today in the wonderful world of marbles on stream.
Let me get it ready, but before we do, Huss, we do have to play the very excellent Marble Race theme song. Shout out to Tristan Rivers Music.
The illustrious muse of the Winnipeg digital sports world, Tristan Rivers.
Yes, putting together this theme song for us. Sorry, I'm copying and pasting all these lists into a thing. One sec. But appreciate everyone hanging out here. Everyone who's liked the video so far. I think we had over 150 likes last time I checked. 166, incredible. We got to 6,200 subs on here. So appreciate all the subs.
Thank you.
We're closing in on like 1,000 Facebook subs, or Facebook likes. So like us on Facebook. We're trying to up the social media. Trying to be really well-rounded here.
If you dive into those Facebook waters, the mean streets of Facebook, do us a favor, hit up Winnipeg Sports Talk. Also, our Instagram, our Twitter is at Sports Talk WPG. Dropped a picture of me with Willie O'Ree on the account. If you haven't seen that so far this week, that was a great little way back Wednesday.
That
really
was
cool
awesome
to see Willie O'Ree get his number retired by the Boston Bruins, and it reminded me we had the opportunity to meet the great Willie O'Ree way back in the day, the early H&L days, back when we were doing shows at the casino. I want to say it was probably 2010. Anyways, you can check that out on Instagram and like it, follow it. You know how to do it. All right, what are we doing here? How are we looking?
Okay, so let's do the theme song, and then I'll fire up the marble thing. And I guess we do need to mention, very sad to hear the news today about Meatloaf. Rest in peace. So I went to the Meatloaf concert one time here, and Louis Anderson as well. And not a good year start for celebrity deaths. Billy White earlier, and we didn't mention Bob Saget.
Bob Saget a couple weeks ago.
Was crushed to hear that one. So
a lot of meatloaf. There'll be a lot of meatloaf spun today in bars around North America, probably the world. I guess he was pretty big. All those big rock ballads.
He
never
was big.
Was a huge meatloaf guy. I know Gregory, our guy Gregory, was upset about it today. He was a big Meatloaf fan. I got a DM today that just said we lost Meatloaf, and that was a bit of a jarring text or a DM to get from Greg, because I wasn't aware about it at the time. But anyways, this marble race dedicated to Meatloaf today on Winnipeg Sports Talk
Earl
Daily.
James writes in chat, I would do anything for marbles, but I won't do that.
Nicely done, Earl.
Okay, this is a good way to start it here. All right, here we go. Oh, wait, sorry. I don't have the... Selected the wrong sound card. Gee. Sorry. Okay, let's start this again. Okay, now we're good. I'll edit that onto the podcast.
It's time to do a marble race. No separating back to the worst. Marble race. Just play marbles with the punctuation first. Marble race. Don't spam or you will survive. Marble race. No more it's too late. Set go.
The amazing Tristan Rivers music with the Marble Race intro. Of course, he's also the genius behind the Kenny and Rennie tunes, Sean's Headband, Enter Kenny. Those are great. Oh, and Royal Sports. What up, Greg? Heard Huss got a Twitter follow by a Gold Jacket member this past week. I don't think I mentioned this on the program. Checking my notifications a few days ago, and out of the blue, I get a follow from none other than Warren Moon. I have no idea how Warren Moon found me. I have no idea what precipitated that, but that was really, really cool. Needless to say, I followed back on Mr. Warren Moon. You can hit me up and follow as well at Hustlerama. All right, Remo, looks like we've got a packed house today for the marbles. What course are we doing today?
The one I have is called the Factory, and I got too many. I got so many files here with marbles. So yeah, we got 147 people. We're gonna roll with the Factory. Sounds like a pretty good
I think
game.
I remember the Factory. This is gonna be a good one. So hey, what a week it's been. Great show today. And this is the only way we could possibly finish it off. We've had Dennis Beyak on. We had Adam Bighill. We've had Ken Wiebe. We've had Hacksaw. We've had a great crew in the chat. Thanks again for the super chats, guys. That is really, really cool of you. And now only one thing left to do before we dive headfirst into this weekend, and that is to fire up the marbles on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Commissioner Remis, let them fly, and let's do this.
All right, let's go. All right, here we go. They're into this Plinko like device. They're coming from all directions.
This is Atomic Kong, Larry Eloy with good starts, it seems. This is everyone's going, and then back up in the factory.
Oh, geez.
This
is what we got going on here. So
I have a feeling we could have some eliminations.
yeah, well, we're
All
going to
right,
wait.
Michael Capti looking good, potentially out first. Yeah, I do think Michael Capti has the lead. Who else do we have here? Let's see here. I'm having a hard time reading
Yeah,
these.
a lot of names. Michael Capti, Spudge MC, who's a winner, Schickster, Bartholomew. I recognize a lot of the names in here. So they're going through this little turbine. Oh, there goes Bartholomew. Bye-bye. He's out.
Wow, from third to out. But yeah, Michael Capti. There was Bartholomew.
Oh, they're
Taking
dropping
the,
here. Larry Eloy, Dallas, Brad Roy, Ryan
Ernie
Kernicki.
Thiessen just got bounced. Dallas
Yeah.
Paul's got
Oh.
jounced.
Oh my-
One bird out. One bird just won. One bird was our trivia winner actually a couple weeks ago. Came by to pick up his treat. All
Okay.
right, Russ Lowen. Now, how this jump works is going to be wild. Getting it into the funnel. Like they're doing it pretty well. All right, we are coming down to it. Oh, we lost a few guys. TV
Oh.
covers.
Oh, we got Klassen, who's
Klassen looks like he's in first. Eric Shorlifson, and all in a WST Hall of Fame. I don't think Eric has ever won before. This is going to come right down to it. We got Eric
Klassen.
Klassen, Devin SG.
Yeah. Oh, you got two guys, Devix, SG, and Eric.
Who is it going to be? Who's it going to be? Eric Shorlifson. Big E. Photo finish over Devin XSG and Klassen. That might have been the greatest. We're gonna have to check the times once everyone's in, Remo. That could be the closest photo finish in the history of the marble race, considering they were both coming in on other sides into the bin.
That was a very intense finish. We had three guys at the end, but one from each side. Devix SG and Eric Jorleifson, and I wasn't sure who was going to be there first, but according to the green light that went on, Eric first. It must have been like point something
a thousandth
second.
of a second. I
less
bet.
than a
I'm going to
second.
say it's less than 5,000th of a second. Like we were basically down to certainly the 100ths. It was that close. But I'll tell you what, Eric has been here since day one. Eric is always in the marble race, and I don't even think we've had Eric in with any real close calls. So congratulations to Eric. Great to have you in, and he's a great supporter and certainly very active, helping us out, promote things on Twitter. So really appreciate that. Kenny's water bottle taking the scenic route here. He's coming in, and now Robot Man Lenny, it looks like, is going to be our final marble coming down the stretch. There it is, Eric. I believe it's Shorlifson. If HJ, I know that's not a very common one. What's the difference in times there, Reem?
Oh my God! So Eric was 1 minute 51 seconds and 995. And Devix SG was 1 minute 52 seconds and 0.553. So like half a second.
Interesting. I would have
ahead.
thought that it would even be closer, but I think it might have to be just whoever maybe hits the ground on it. Maybe Darren Devix had a little bit of air going in there.
Yeah.
Who we got? Oh, Todd Fertani. What up, Todd? A top 10. Klassen was in there at third. Rob Somerville fourth. Donnie Boy fifth. Val George sixth. Randy D. Todd Fertani, James Barnaby in ninth, and Logan Tanner Creative. Nicole J, nicely done, Nicole, 11th, and Panks right there. Panks and Miller Time, both former winners in 12th and 13th. Anyways, heck of it. Oh, whoever's bringing it, Mahomes, best name we've had today in the YouTube chat, that's for sure. Man, what an awesome week. Thanks to everyone for joining us. I can't wait for this weekend. It's going to be unreal. Probably be some idle hands tonight. But again, tomorrow I will pop on OB, I believe right around noon. So check that out if you want some Jets pregame coverage. Of course, the IC guys will be doing their show tomorrow morning. And then after both of these games, I'll probably have to catch up on Illegal Curve and Kenny and Rennie a little later on because we're going to come right out of Winnipeg Jets hockey on both Saturday and Sunday into the NFL divisional playoffs. And I see Royal Sports in there. I mentioned it earlier, but even though I'm a Chiefs guy, you Bills fans, they got some great new Bills merch in there as well. Some really cool toques in particular, masks and whatnot. So you need to get geared up to support your team for the big game. Pop by and see our guys over at Royal Sports before kickoff on the weekend. In addition to Royal Sports, I want to thank the rest of our great sponsors that make it happen. Little Brown Jug, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Canadian Club Whiskey, and of course, Canadian Club, our sponsor that helps us put together these great prizes for the marble race. So Eric, hit me up with the DM. Let me know what size you are, and hopefully we've got one ready for you. If not, we've got some more on the way from the folks over at CC, Coolbet Canada, Boston Pizza, Princess Auto, Not Auto Corp, Manitoba Battery, Culligan Water, Vita Health, F Apparel, and of course the gang over at Royal Sports at 750 Pembina Highway. Big thanks to everyone in chat today and all of our guests on a packed show. Dennis Beyak, Ken Wiebe, Adam Bighill, and Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Shout out to Michael Remis for doing a great job as always getting us on the air. And we'll be back on Monday at 1 o'clock, and we will have a ton to talk about with 2 big games for the Winnipeg Jets and 4 playoff games in the National Football League, as well as anything else that seems to happen. We'll have it covered for you here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a great weekend, everyone. Enjoy the hockey, enjoy the football, and we'll see you Monday.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.